Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In the dance of the Nataraja lies the heartbeat of the universe, rhythm, creation, and dissolution. A warm welcome to each and every one of you, our esteemed guests and artists, renowned gurus, dance connoisseurs, students, and art lovers to the final day of the 2025 edition of Nitya Nritya. This vibrant dance conference and festival is organized by the Nopura School of Bharatanatyam under the inspiring guidance of Guru Dr. Lalita Srinivasan. Today's conference and dance programs are generously sponsored by Infosys Foundation and the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Cultural Outreach Program. We would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude for their invaluable support. In today's conference, we are honored to have Srimati Poornima Gururaja, who has curated a session on the theme of connecting through Abhinaya. Joining her are esteemed artists and dancers who will share their valuable insights on this subject. Dr. Katyayani Kanak, Dr. Anwesha Mahanta, and Shri Anil V. Iyer. Srimati Poornima Gururaj is an accomplished exponent of the Tanjavur style of Bharatanatyam, trained under Guru Srimati Narmada. She is the founder and artistic director of the Kalasindhu Academy of Dance and Related Arts in Bangalore. With an MBA from Brandeis University and a background in marketing, Poornima combines artistic passion with a professional expertise. She is currently pursuing her PhD in dance from the Jain University in Bangalore. Poornima Gururaj is a national fellowship holder from the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. Please join me in welcoming her to the dais with a warm round of applause. Dr. Katyayani Kanak, disciple of DSV Shastri in the village of Kuchipudi. She has pursued her master's and PhD under Dr. Anuradha Jannalagadda and co-founded Lasya Kalpa, an institution that promotes learning of Kuchipudi and organizes events related to Indian arts. Please welcome her to the dais. Dr. Anwesha Mahanta is a national award-winning Satriya dancer, scholar, known for her authentic and innovative interpretations of this classical dance form. A senior disciple of Maestro Bayanacharya Ganaghanta Bora, she holds a doctorate from the University of Delhi and has performed extensively across India and internationally. She is the artistic director of Kalpa and Pragjyoti International Dance Festival and has contributed significantly to research, education, and the global promotion of Satriya dance. Please welcome her with a round of applause. Shri Anil V. Iyer is a distinguished Bharatanatyam dancer and choreographer trained under the guidance of Guru Shri R.V. Ramani and Guru Srimati Shobha Srinivasan. He is the founder and artistic director of Spanda Dance Academy, where he mentors aspiring dancers and promotes the classical tradition through rigorous training and creative productions. He has also conducted numerous workshops and lectures to spread the awareness and appreciation of Bharatanatyam. Please join me in welcoming him with a round of applause. It is now my pleasure to hand over the proceedings to Srimati Poornima Gururaj.
Our first presenter for this evening is Dr. Anwesha Mahanta. She has trained with Ghanakanta Bhora, a legendary master in the Vaishnavite monastery of Satra. She has practiced the South Kochi Satara in an immersive tradition. Her PhD is on the socio-ecological structure comparable to a monastery or the ashram, tradition of performing arts in Assam and the role of Satra in it. So these particular schools of Satra that are mentioned, Kamabari Satra and the South Kochi Satra, I asked her if these were two different banis of Satra, and then she says they are not banis, but they are separate monasteries themselves, where these dancers practice this dance. They immerse themselves in the ritual practices of that monastery, and that's where this particular dance form has come up. So we have curated this conference this evening to take us through inspiration from tangible sources like sculptures and paintings and their influence on the body. The influence of the body itself on the immersive tradition of the dance, and the connection between the thought and the body, how it connects to present Abhinaya. Anwesha Mahanta will be taking us through the intangible connections that inspire a connection of Abhinaya, connection of sculpture and painting to expression in dance.
Ano bhadraha kratavo yanto vishvata. Let the noble thoughts come from all directions. Namaskar to all the Vidwans and Rasikas present over here. It's indeed a great honor for me to be a part of this beautiful celebration of dance heritage and looking at dance from various perspectives, and my sincere gratitude to Poornima ji for making me a part of this discussion, and at the same time my heartfelt gratitude to organizers of Nitya Nritya. The topic which I had chosen, the tangible from the terrain of tangible to the intangible, and I thought of giving the topic of my presentation as expressive bodies and performative turns, the legacy of hot rod tradition. And I would like to begin my presentation with a quote from Shankardeva's Bhagavata translation. E hundoro horoto kalo, e bohonto dhiko, bhoila anandito dekhi tako shriko, jolo soro pokhi tejoi, fulolito nado, hugandha batahe ase, milaoi ahlado, milaoi ahlado. The translation says, the season of Sharada outshines the brilliance of Vasanta. Seeing the grandeur of nature, the gods also rejoice. The riverine creatures and birds sing melodiously in joy. Everybody's mind is filled with the fragrance of the wind. When each character of the earth gets expressed in its fullest adornment, how could we not imagine the arts evolved from the inspiration of nature and its cosmic energy, not speaking of expressions? Today's presentation talks about that interrelationality of expressions, where the material culture, which are expressive bodies in their own right, enunciate a living body and create a rasa. Finding its roots in the Bhakti movement in 15th, 16th century, led by Srimanto Hankodev, the great saint poet, and his principal apostle, Sri Sri Madhavdeva, has lived a living legacy of 6 centuries, interweaving with memories, contributions of the great masters, and bodies of the practitioners. The Bhakti movement embraced a polyphony of artistic expressions where human skills of crafts, weaving, sculpted carvings, writing, recitation, singing, dancing, painting, and enactments were woven together to a holistic understanding of Bhakti in its integrated sharing of communication of thoughts and ideas centering around the treatise of Bhagavata Purana. The movement celebrated the idealistic principle of Nirakar and allowed human imagination and creativity to shape an akar manifested in an array of expressive dimensions of artistic brilliance. The saint poet, in his first ever presentation of lyrico-dramatic spectacle, the Sihna Jatra, to translate the journey of symbols, which according to the biographical chronicles was a marvel of sheer visual and performative artistry. The painted scenography and props and the use of masks left unparalleled imprints, and in fact various local resources were also used, and the introduction of Sihna Jatra itself created unfurled a creative tendency that brought many artistic forms together. So these polysemic artistic folds are practiced and preserved primarily in the last 6 centuries in the Satra institutions. What are Satra institutions? So Satras are basically Vaishnavite monasteries where, after the introduction of all varied artistic expressions which was introduced by Hankordev and his principal apostle Madhavdev, they thought of institutionalizing these art forms to practice, preserve, and constantly create a dialogue about these artistic forms. They created the Satra institution, where the assembly of practitioners constantly devote themselves and discuss. And all these art forms, to keep in mind, were presented as a ritual offering. So till date, these traditional practices are alive in the Satras. In traversing between philosophy, forms, expressions, and reflections, what we see is an organic worldview inherent within a speculative thought. Each art form in the form of animate or inanimate elements emerged as a reflection of a larger cosmic view of bhakti, enunciating a path of experiencing Brahmana with Nama and Rupa. From this philosophical thought, let us quickly dive into the Ankya Nat and its performance, Bhavna, that unfurled a vast expanse of creativity flourishing within the religious space. Bhavna, the term, coming from the confluence of bhavas, being a natya spectacle, evolved as a democratic space for artistic efflorescence. Being one of the foremost expressive forms of bhakti movement, the creation, preparation, and presentation of Ankya Bhavna itself was a movement. Right from the preparation of the performance space, Ranga Griha, to the decor and performance as an offering, each aspect of preparation was directed towards a larger meaning. While the Charitas, the biographical chronicles, loudly speak of the references to those preparations, it leaves us enough space to think about each preparatory process, whether it's the creation of khol, the principal instrument used in Hotriya tradition, designing the textiles, preparing makeup, accessories of costume, paintings depicted as props to reflect heaven, were all part of creating the bhakti rasa as its ultimate experience. My next point would be Bhakti and multiple expressive bodies. The polyphony of Bhakti movement by Shonkardev uncovered diverse ways of creative pursuit, loudly emphasizing community engagement, participation, and voice for local resources. The idea of bhakti evolved with artistic communication and participation and the inner expressive thoughts of an individual who could be a sculptor, a painter, a weaver, or a performer, directing their bhavas, the intangible moments in manifesting forms, akars. Thus, each form, artistic form, stands as a petal of the lotus in the form of rupa and pratirupa, reflecting the nirakar, the unmanifested one in vivid akars. Let us quickly have a look at some of these artistic expressions as practiced in the satras even today, apart from the performing arts, the music, dance, and theatre. The mask tradition. A gift of Shankaradeva movement are the masks, and their usage in Assam were not a dormant feature in earlier days, earlier to the resurgence, the Bhakti movement. Shonkardev first used a mask in Sihna Jatra itself, which was his first play. With the use of indigenous elements and an understanding of ethnicity, the saint poet conceptualized the mask and its implementation in bhavana that reflected his artistic vision. So today, and all the masks, we have three kinds of masks. One, the facial mask. Second, the half-size mask. And a life-size mask. So the mask of Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu or Krishna, in dramas like Parijatharan is widely used. Similarly, the mask of Kalia Nag, which is used in the play of Kalyadaman, and many more masks like the Narasimha. Narasimha mask is a life-size mask. Similar, the Ravana mask is also a life-size mask. We have several instances of those masks, and today this mask tradition, apart from being a part of the bhavana tradition, itself has grown in its own right, and even it has developed as an industry on its own. Coming to the next artistic expression, the manuscript paintings. The craftsmen responsible for the creation of paintings and penmanship were known as chronikors. These craftsmen were traditional carvers, primarily associated with woodcrafts, and also worked as makeup person during bhavanas, or one of the traditional form of, or any of the traditional forms of drama. Their familiarity with color and form of traditional theatre inspired them to create parallel pictorial forms in the folios of manuscripts. That is why many figural forms appear to dance in pictorial space. So whenever we see the manuscript paintings, each and every figure, it's always on move. It's never a static pose, as if it's trying to speak or it has a performative turn in its own. So some of the finest illustrations we find even today are the texts like Anadi Paton, Gita Govinda, Kirtan Ghoha, Parijat Haran, Dharma Puran, Bhagavat Puran, which we get in the form of Chitra Bhagavat. The next artistic expression which I would like to focus is the textile tradition of Hotriya. Keeping the Namghar, the Kirtan Ghar, where all the performances are dedicated, and the ritualistic service, the Hotriya tradition of textile found its expressive notes in various renditions of Bhagavata Purana scenes or the Namghoha text as woven in the fabric. These textile fabrics are used to decorate the pillars of the Namghars, the Sanctum Sanctorum, the Singhasan, and are also used sometimes as a prop in the bhavana sequence. The tradition also has the eloquent Vrindavani Vastra in its reference. What is Vrindavani Vastra? So some of the Leelas which we find and being narrated in the Bhagavata, they are woven in the Vrindavani Vastra. One of them, just there itself, you would see an illustration of Vrinda, the images below in the slide. The Vrindavani Vastra, it's a 120-meter long piece of cloth with a breadth of 30 meters that depicts the heroic maneuvers of Lord Krishna. The textile piece commissioned by Koch dynasty has pictorial analysis and its significance in terms of rich color fabrics, together with a highlight on the gestural poses of the figures in the paintings, and the pattern of the sculptural movements seem to have a futuristic design. Each carvings or each textile weaving has a spiritual metaphor inherent behind its depiction, and the supremacy of pastoral description, valorization of humanistic perspectives of the divine, and the service of the divine towards community are beautifully portrayed in the Vrindavani Vastra. The next artistic expression is the wood carving. The wood carvings of the satras is not just central to the movement's purpose, but are primary centers for woodworking employing master artisans known as conifers. These artisans are responsible for decorating various elaborate carvings on the doors of the namghars, the walls, the beams, the ceilings of the namghar or the kirtan ghar. Another significant woodwork that we see is the singhasan, the sanctum sanctorum. Yes, the singhasan. So I would also like to say that the sanctum sanctorum, in the sanctum sanctorum of Kirtan Ghar, there is no idol worship. It's the Bhagavata that is placed at the top of this tired work that you have seen. At the central top is the Bhagavat Puran. So it's always the text that is venerated and no idols are there. So the Guru Asan or the Singhasan, the throne-like seat where the Holy Scripture is kept, is a prime example of Satriya woodwork. It often features intricate carvings of Namahingha. So, in the tired throne, you would see that mythical creature of Simha, which is governing the Hasti, that is representation of Maya. And here is a picture of the Namghar where all these art forms are offered. Similarly, dance accessories and also preparation of various accessories for costume or the aharya also form a part of material culture. Quickly, since we are running out of time, I'll quickly shift to Namghar or Kirtan Ghar, which becomes a consecrated space of these artistic reflections. In the context of living dance tradition like Hotriya, where dance is still performed as a ritual ceremony in the prayer hall called Namghar or the Kirtan Ghar, the special frame reflects different dimensions. There is no idol worship, and the sanctum sanctorum keeps Srimad Bhagavat Purana or the Kirtan Ghoha in the sanctum with an ideational belief of Nirakar, that is formless. Hence, the repertoire of dance gets philosophized with the idea of absorption of infinity through fluid movements, circular representations, soft-footed nature, and a balance of grace and vigor of energy. Thus, the Namghar for us is a space of connect. While it's a space where one connects to several minds, the bhaktas or the devotees sitting there for chantings, the special exhibits with all these with all these artifacts, cultural artifacts, the Namghar also make it a site of heritage reservoir, with the artifacts and motifs connecting one to the philosophy of Shankaradeva movement. The space with the gathering becomes a living site of heritage and a socio-cultural space where the artifacts are not just objects kept in a museum. Here, the physical space leads towards the visualization of objects in a mental space. And each of these artifacts become objects of veneration or texts of veneration, cultural texts of veneration, which creates an environment of supra-reality of heavenly space. So Namghar for us is a Vaikuntha itself. The main sanctum of space with the motif reflects the iconic representations of the steps of the higher realization, the Singhasana. And the sculpted wooden work in the Singhasana, the Sanctum Sanctorum, with the lion governing the elephant, is a way that shows thoughts controlling existence. The Bhagavata treatise at the top of the iconic image speaks of the formless, and with the importance of performance and the embodiment of philosophical interpretations of the Bhagavata, the body from the material existence gets connected to the supreme consciousness, which is formless, the Nirakar. Thus, with an engagement of the historicity of the movements, touching, sensing the flavor of the form with the expressive forms of artifacts like the manuscripts, paintings, sculptural engravings, the body undergoes a process of thought. The interpretations of the thinking body get reflected in the performance, which becomes significant in carrying forward the legacy to the present. My concluding point is the interrelation and interaction between artistic forms. So I would like to begin this section by citing a reference from the Charitas, where Sri Sri Madhavdeva was deeply moved by skilled artistry of a Khanikar who was carving the wooden panels in the Namghar. And with a deep admiration, he pronounced that he too would carve the floral motifs with the words. And in the Namghoha itself, we find a beautiful chanda, pada chanda, where it is called as Latakota chanda. You know, the chanda moves like a petal. Likewise, there are many instances where one artistic expression inspires the other or one form leads to the other, reaffirming every time the famous Chitra Sutra of Vishnu Purana. The constant oscillation of expressions, literary pieces are woven in textile, poetry and painting, music and dance, also drama. Philosophy, sculpture, and architecture are all reflections of a Rupakara who perceives, embodies, and meditates with his or her work that varies akars, forms, only to evoke the formless and beyond form. With a relational orientation of text to other text, the Satriya tradition stands as a large network of artistic expression, blurring the stereotypicality of genres. I would like to bring another instance of Bhagavad Purana, which is the prime source of Shankaradeva's philosophy. Each word gets embodied in the form of painting in the Chitra Bhagavata. And again, from the Chitra Bhagavata, we get beautiful renditions of music. And furthermore, this gets embodied in a form of textile weaving and also in the form of masks. Similarly, we also see instances of Kirtan Ghoha where the texts, the literary texts, are getting woven in the form of fabric, and furthermore, it gets recited in the form of oral texts. The dancers do perform also on the basis of that. And furthermore, from these artistic expressions, again, newer literary texts are being created. So there's a constant oscillation of narratives from one leading or inspiring the other. In this constant oscillation and relationality of texts, embodied as oral, and pictorial, the pictorial and oral texts are embodied as literary texts. And in each case, I see a practitioner as a rupakar, embodying words, philosophy, movements, music, colors, and shapes the totality of ideal of bhakti as a reflection of Anta Hridaya Akasa, as noted in Chanda Yoga Upanishad. My concluding part of this presentation would be a demonstration of a work which is a reflection of that relationality of text, where the paintings of Anadipatan, a philosophical text of Shankardeva, the frames that we see in those illustrations, the borders, get punctuated in the form of bowls that are recited, and the movements of creepers, as Madhavdeva himself says, the Latakota creeper. So those Latakota creeper were being interpreted in the form of movements in this piece, idealizing a concentric space of Purusha, the ultimate whole, in a form of Bindu. And in the words of Shankardeva, each ring is a reflection, a pratibimba of Ishvara. And the piece ends with this beautiful line where the saint poet celebrates mind as an opening to a larger worldview. And each worldview that is perceived through our eyes is a reflection of Ishvara. So, presenting before you a work from my production, Paramachitra.
Thank you, Anwesha, for that beautiful presentation. So we saw connection of the arts with painting, with textiles, with sculpture. We saw connections between the akara and the nirakara. The connection went all the way to the cosmic reality. From the paintings, sculpture, textiles, we come down to the body itself. Dr. Katyayani Kanak is a disciple of D.S.V. Shastri in the village of Kuchipudi itself. She's trained in Yakshagana music and Kuchipudi solo. She has a master's and PhD with Dr. Anuradha Jonnalagadda. Katyayani Kanak has also co-founded Lasya Kalpa, a dance-related events place, and also teaches the immersive tradition of dance. Katyayani looks at the connection between body and expression. She's also looking at gender and its connection to dance. Katyayani Kanak. Katyayani requests me to stand corrected. Her guru is trained in Yakshagana music. We will be open to questions, not only questions. If you don't have any questions, please, you can, at the end of this session, share with us your takeaways on this session this evening.
Yes. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I'm very excited actually to share whatever I discovered in the process of putting this presentation together. And I'm very grateful to the organizers of Nitya Nritya and to Poornima ma'am for asking me to be a part of this very intelligent subject of discussion. Because contemplation is a constant, but to concretize it into words and to actually verbalize it, you need a lot of organization in your own mind, and that's what helped me understand my own art form better and understand the intimate relationship that I have with the Kuchipudi I practice better. I wish to begin this presentation with a famous quote by Sri Pasumarthi Krishnamurti, one of the Kuchipudi hereditary artists who had utmost jivam in his art. అదే తకదిమి ప్రహ్లాదుడు ఒకలా చేయాలి, హిరణ్యకశపుడు ఒకలా చేయాలి, నరసింహస్వామి ఇంకోలా చేయాలి. Roughly translated, it is the same takadhimi, but needs to be done by the pious child Prahlada in one manner, the mighty Hiranyakasipa in another, and the ferocious Narasimha in yet another. Three different characters, three different manifestations of the very same Adugu. When I took up dance, I wanted to spend all my time learning to be a florist. But somehow I ended up in the lab training to be a botanist. An experience slightly different from what I set out to do. But one that gave me immense revelations into the myriad ways in which the hereditary artists of Kuchipudi functioned. Like every other art form, Kuchipudi has its own combination of unique threads, interwoven together, forming a singular cohesive whole. I want us to locate some of those threads that intertwine, giving rise to Kuchipudi, just to give some context to the findings I will be presenting henceforth. I urge you to join me in imagining this place and its ecosystem. One second. And its ecosystem, that was the context for which the art form of Kuchipudi molded and evolved itself. Kuchipudi wasn't originally the name of a dance form. It's a village, an agraharam, inhabited by a group of Brahmin families, popularly known as the Kuchipudi Bhagavatalu, meaning the artists from Kuchipudi, whose primary occupation was farming. But agriculture did not provide enough fodder for their creative minds and imaginative souls. They needed to act. They needed to enact. They needed to tell stories. So along with agriculture, they pursued another path, storytelling. One second, I'll just try to put this laptop here because sorry. Yes, please. But that's not happening. Sorry. Did I do something to cause that sound? No? Okay. They became master storytellers, albeit within meager means. It is important to know that they never had the sustained patronage of any one court or temple. They performed for masses. In crossroads, on makeshift stages. The reason I go into all this is to underline the nature of their existence. Work of the soil and the soul enmeshed into one. They did not differentiate between spaces. Farmlands, backyards, and front yards of homes often became practice arenas. Chores often were accompanied by singing their darubus. Costumes were handmade and hand-painted by themselves with whatever resources they had. Every male child's journey with their art form, and only the male children of those families took this art form up, began at 7 years, 7 months, 7 days old from a guru that they most likely were related to in more than one way. So every time you ask them, how are you related, you will get at least 3 kinds of relationship. From my mother's side, it's like this. From my father's side, it's like this. And then they are also again related like this. So it's a very, very interwoven sort of a community that exists there. A lot of their learning happened also while watching, observing, and mostly also performing. They believed in the push them into the well and they will learn how to swim philosophy. In short, they did not have the luxury of indulging in a single-minded pursuit of their art. They had to constantly switch hats between the cloth turban and the studded kiritam. Imagine that for a moment. Farmers by day, actors by night, portraying varied characters, including charismatic Rakshasas and haughty Divanayikas, coming alive owing to their larger-than-life wooden painted ornaments, lit by kagadas or flames from strategically placed torches. Kuchipudi's known history begins with the Kalapam. Primarily Bhama Kalapam and Golla Kalapam. Both, again, like the art form that was just discussed, rooted in the Bhakti tradition, revolving around the philosophy reflecting Vaishnava school of thought. Let us see a little bit of how the Kalapam was performed.
ఓయమ్మా మాధవి,
ఏమమ్మా సత్యభామ,
నా స్వామిని ఎందేనా చూపగలవా?
వాని రూపురేఖలను తెలుపవమ్మా.
నా స్వామి శంఖమును ధరించినటువంటి వారే ఓయమ్మ.
శంఖమును ధరించిన వారు జంగమవార ఎదురుగదమ్మా.
లేదే, నా స్వామి చక్రము ధరించినటువంటి వారే.
చక్రము ధరించిన వారిని శాలివాహను గందురుగదమ్మా. అయినను వాని పేరు తెలపవమ్మా.
ఓయమ్మా మాధవి, ఇంతోటి ఆడవారిలో ఇంతటి మగవారిలో సత్యభామ మొగలి పేరు చెప్పినదంటే
సిగ్గయేటో.
That was the legendary Vedantam Satyanarayana Sarma Garu, who we will talk again about him in a little bit. While this was performed extensively for a while, these artists were known to interact greatly with the Nataka traditions around. They would, independent of their roles and performances back in the village, explore portraying different roles in the Telugu Padya Natakas as well. It is inevitable that they brought back some influences of acting, body language, dialogue, and singing to the art back home. While this was constant, another inescapable, and I would bet irresistible to their exuberant spirit, genre of performance caught their attention, the Parsi theatre. With its huge sets, dramatic entries and exits, it captivated audiences all over the country. The ripples it caused in Kuchipudi manifested in the genre known as the Yakshagana. With this came the portrayal of both the heroic and demonic charm. Rama, Abhinaya, Lavakusa and Harishchandra came along with Hiranyakasipa, Ravana, Ghatotkacha and so on. The Kalapam had about 2 or 3 characters, performances that banged on witty improvisations by the Sutradhar and on the successful portrayal of the Brukumsaka, which is a male artist, being able to go beyond the masculinity of his physical body and tap into feminine energies by the main character. Whoever was portraying either Bhama or Gollabhama had to do that. Now the Yakshagana allowed them to go larger than life, the male performing the alpha male. This brought about a wider scope of bodily movements, gestures and manifestations of rasas than ever before. The performers became more versatile actors, or rather actor-dancers, with movement aiding their theatrics and histrionics. Adugus or footwork were definitely employed, but sparingly, with the purpose of heightening expression and to communicate the emotion the character was portraying. Let us watch a small excerpt from one of the very first Yakshaganas to ever be created in the Kuchipudi form, the Bhakta Prahlada.
భక్త ప్రహ్లాద నాటకంబునందు హిరణ్యకశ్యప మహారాజు తన మంత్రులతోడ సభకు వచ్చు విధంబు ఎట్టిదని కనక కసిపుడను దను చేయ కనక తోడ తనకు సభకు వాచన్ వినక దినకర శతకోటి దీప్తి వెలిగే దినకర శతకోటి దీప్తి వెలిగెడు దినకర శతకోటి దీప్తి వెలిగే మనుల మగుడమును విరవున ధారించి కనక కవిగుడములను ఘనత తోడ కవిత భగువాజను గొడుగులు కడగలు వడి సురకీలను ఎగమెడ విగరుతు పడతులు నడువగ కడువడి రంభాది కామినులు తిరుగదలన్నాడగా తగిట తగ జను తరిగిట తగ దిత్తం తదిత్తం తది అదిత్తం తదిత్తం తది తగదిత్తం తదిత్తం తది.
విప్రయిత్యాది మంత్రులారా, నా తనయుండైన ప్రహ్లాదుడు లోకరీతిని కైకొనక నా వైరిని స్మరించుచుండుటచే దిగ్గజములచే తొక్కించితిని, విషభీకరోరగములచే కనిపించితిని. అయినను వీని బుద్ధి మారదయ్యి. సూచెదగా లీలావతి ప్రహ్లాదుల ఈ సభకు రావింపు.
ఆజ్ఞ మహారాజా, వారినిప్పుడే పిలిపించదము.
దానవేంద్రుని ఆజ్ఞా ప్రకారము లీలావతి ప్రహ్లాదుని తోడ సభకు వచ్చు విధంలో ఎటిదని హరి హరి కవి భరత మొరాలించి కవగరావా హరి హరి కవి
ప్రహ్లాద భక్త ప్రహ్లాద.
Now, what is that sliding doing in this presentation, right? The Yakshagana reigned supreme for quite a few decades, and some artists who ventured out beyond this genre were drawn to another phenomenon that took over not just the whole country but also the West. This phenomenon was known as Uday Shankar. With him came an entirely new usage of the body. It was an instrument to move in such a way that the idea is established, manipulating the largest and smallest parts of the body to move sinuously according to whatever idea or theme was to be conveyed. In this genre of dance, known as the Oriental dance, bodily movement was the hero, the language of communication. Some artists, such as Vempati Pedasatyam, Vedantam Raghavaya, and Pasumarthi Krishnamurti, dove into this wave with full gusto. They watched, observed, learnt, and adapted it to suit their thematic requirements. Pieces like the Hunter dance, Srishti Vidhanam, Radhika Krishna came to be owing to this infatuation with this genre. It was but natural that these artists were eagerly adopted into the film industry owing to their ability to cater to any kind of genre with absolute ease. Here is a small part of a dance performed by Pasumarthi Krishnamurti himself for a film. And now you can see when from that quote, how emotion and adugu actually go together, how an adugu can be identified, but the emotion that can also be used to convey a certain emotion by manipulating a little things in how it is executed. I don't know why that's happening. From this milieu emerged a young, ambitious artist who had immense exposure to both the artistic texture back in the village as well as the new experiments his immediate seniors were indulging in, Sri Vempati Satyam. It was this creative genius that paved an entirely new path for the river that was Kuchipudi, the solo. I am simply not referring to the solo as a genre here, something that one person does versus something that many people do. I'm not referring to that, but as a practice that held within itself voluminous vocabulary that for the first time ever in Kuchipudi worked on both male and female bodies. He had experience of the Kalapa Yakshagana traditions that he inherited from his ancestors, and also worked extensively with his cousin Pedasatyam and cousin's wife Saudamani. One of the pictures of the Oriental, that posture that we saw was Pedasatyam and his wife Saudamani. He created a movement vocabulary that was a wonderful combination of the rustic roots he had and the urban refinement he imbibed. The adugos involved using the upper and lower body both simultaneously, yet with their own independent articulations. The number of Adugus employed in his choreographies are so vast that even after having practiced this form for 19 years, when I rewatch some of his work, I sometimes stumble upon new patterns of footwork and movement. The body became primary, not secondary, to acting. Thus arrived the solo version of Kuchipudi. Here's a small Nritta segment that's performed by both male and female dancers. But he did not abandon the theatricality of his tradition. He found another genre, one that he worked upon expansively, in which to pour the dramatic essence of the form, the dance drama. In this genre, his experiments are innumerable as well. Here, the body does not stop with portraying the male or the female, but also inanimate objects or intangible ideas. The body is used to depict the plough or halam, in which King Janaka and his wife perform the yagam, as also cows and peacocks that are lost in Krishna's world, as also the hala halam, which emanates from the Amrita Madhanam, and the fires that engulf Sati. This is the Hori tradition that practitioners like me receive. We are urban-born, middle-class, convent-educated people who train in a tradition that we do not grow up watching from a guru who is not at all related to us. It is important to point out here that the traditional Kalapam and Yakshaganam are not often witnessed by students as much as the solo and the dance drama genre. We train in a solo form, as described above, with immense emphasis on footwork, beauty, and grace of movement. And dexterity of the body. It is less about becoming a character and more about conveying the meaning of a lyric, which is of prime concern. So in a span of a few decades, how does an art form such as one described above transform into what I'm learning now? What are the underlying currents that caused and sustained this transformation? It appears that there's a huge amount of change and shifts between the two. But when one looks at the various genres the form delved into, the various pathways it took for us to learn and see what we do today, there's a very strong thread that sustains. One can only imagine how the various genres, varying ideas, and vast manifestations of the intangible were made possible by those artists through the best tool they had at their disposal to connect to the internal, the body. This, I believe, is the strongest tool of the Kuchipudi artist, irrespective of whether they are hereditary or not. Now, what kind of body? That also matters. As someone practices, thinks in, and creates with Kuchipudi, the idea of the body and its multi-level, multifaceted importance has been a constant inquiry in my mind. Does my idea of body differ from the hereditary artists? If yes, how? What is that a non-hereditary artist, without the aid of DNA, passive learning, and generational intelligence need to do to bring in this emotion to an Adugu or a movement? How can I do Takadimi as three different characters? How can one ensure that we bridge the gap between the emotional mental plane, which is dealing with bhavas and rasas and whatnot, to the physical plane, which is all about postures and rhythm and positions and movement? In my experience of training, performing, and researching, mainly watching and observing Kuchipudi traditional artists, I've come across those that have done this successfully, etching their art in our memories for life. If anyone here has seen the legend Sri Vedantam Satyanarayana Sarma, whose Kalapam we just witnessed, and his portrayal of Bhama in Bhama Kalapam, it is an experience I believe will stay with people over lifetimes. But if you imagine you met him in another context, see him without the attire. For instance, see this collage backwards. Walking on the road, you would find it very difficult to believe that this tall, big-framed, imposing-looking, upright gentleman, obviously from a village, can transform into the most graceful, sensuous, even coy, eyelash-batting diva royal heroine of the Telugu culture. I had to make sense of this transformation, so I dug deeper into the makings of an actor-dancer's body, and I definitely was not disappointed. I spoke to many intelligent, intuitive dancers. Just recently, I was talking to my mentor in thinking and humor, Srimati Rama Bharadwaj, a disciple of the brilliant Kamala Lakshman, who later trained in Kuchipudi with Guru Vempati Master. When asked about her experience in learning this new art form, she had extremely poignant insights. I quote her verbatim. While the technique of dance form can be forged, its essence cannot be faked. There is a native accent in every body, which does not lie. One requires to undergo a cognitive energy shift in order to tap into the pranic energy of every form. Some pieces of the puzzle fell into place for me, and yet I needed to dissect it further. After a lot of reading and drawing from nuggets of borrowed wisdom that my brain stored away for future use over many years, I understood this. The one skill I believe that the hereditary artists had access to was embodied body consciousness. Body consciousness is a highly multidimensional phenomenon involving aspects from societal and cultural meanings to our personal experiences, psychological constructs and somatic markers. Each word here unlocked the meaning of some things I've heard from people over the years. My dear friend Sri Lakshmi Govardhanan, a born Malayali who devotedly trained from Guru Pasumarthi Rattaya Sarma back in the village, describes one of his instructions to her. One day he said, just go sit in the center of the village and observe all the women, how they walk, how they talk, how they behave. It made sense now. A similar parallel example is given when Guru Sharmila Biswas said she truly understood Odissi when she stayed with Guru Kelucharan Mahopatro and accompanied Guru Ma to the temple, to the vegetable market and did household chores alongside her. The impact of societal and cultural practices on one's body is one of the strongest markers of that region. The biggest challenge for practitioners like me is to understand the nuance of this, because for the hereditary artists, it is an embodied practice. They grow up in that context, absorbing every single moment of their existence, these various minute yet powerful nuances from surroundings. Embodied practice here, I define as an unconscious and subconscious non-conceptual understanding of one's body that forms a starting point of the self, its actions and sensations. How should my body feel when I'm trying to depict a certain character? This comes naturally to them, but how do I learn this? I had to first understand the concept of consciousness itself in a very original, unnuanced idea. We can talk about that later if we have questions. But what I understood is that we need to go beyond primary consciousness and go into explicit and reflective consciousness in order to be able to tap into that character's mindset. In order to truly engage with this blend of dance, drama, theatrics, and characters, because while I was unaware of what my body was capable of, I was only too aware of its unawareness. Unless there was a clearly designated movement pattern to every limb, I was lost. Let me furbish this with an example. While watching seasoned actors, we're not really looking at their hands and what they're doing with it. We're only caught with the emotion and expression of their acting in its entirety. But in the case of amateurish actors, they do not know what to do with their hands. Hence, they become very aware of their own hands, their own lack of movement in their hands, and their awkwardness in the way they hold them. This ends up drawing our attention to their hands. And their awareness of this awkwardness shouts out to us on an energy level to look at those unmanaged hands. In my case, whenever there was a theatrical element or a dramatic element I had to enact, a similar awkwardness made its presence known. I've asked my guru so many times, what do I do with this hand? There's no choreography for this hand. How do I place it? Not all performance forms have similar demands from the artist. The differences in these styles are also mirrored in the artist's relationship to the body and the perceptual processes involved in that relationship. For instance, ballet dancers focus on visual sense, their movement being based on what it should look like. For contemporary dancers, their focus is on the movement finding its origin in the experience of their body. With every dance form, the place from which the artist needs to operate within changes. For Kuchipudi artists, it is to find that character they are personifying through their body. This led me to understand that unlike pure dancing or Nritta, Dramatic dancing requires you to connect to the idea and context of that character, connect to the emotion of that character's present state, and to become that character through your body in movement. Traditionally, hereditary artists also invested immensely in training the body, calling it the samo. This gave them flexibility, dexterity, yes, but mostly it was a way to ensure their body was available to them, no matter which shape or stance they had to take to convey the emotional state of the character. Their ability to manifest a character in their body is the source of their power, the core of the art form, the pranic energy that Rama ma'am was mentioning. And it is this thread that binds the tradition together, be it the characteristic kalapam, the exuberant yakshaganam, the emotive dance drama, or the sinuous movement texture of the unigendered solo. And I can forge a connection to that thread through my body and its ability to invoke. I will now present a small segment from a much larger choreography. This is an Utukada Navavarna that we choreographed, but this part is an episode. We Kuchipudi choreographers try to bring in a story into whatever we are trying to do. So there is a reference to this, to the Devi vanquishing Bhandasura in that Kirtana, in that Navavarna Kirtana, Kriti. So we went into the episode of Bhandasura. For those who do not know the story, I will quickly in two lines finish it. When Manmadha does his arrow thing on Shiva and Shiva burns him down, it's over, they go their way, but that body is still there. The ashes of Manmadha's body are still there. One very meddlesome sannyas, rishi comes, walks, and brings that back to life. Now, this is antithesis of Srishti. This is against the law of nature. And so the being that comes from those ashes becomes the opposite of love and passion, extreme kamam and perversion, who is Bhandasura. And he is just destroying every woman, girl, child that he can lay his eyes on. And so his people, everyone, the whole world asks the gods to intervene. And that is when the first 4 lines of the Lalita Sahasranamam actually refer to this incident, where from the Chidagni Devi comes, and then she comes and kills Bhandasura. This is what I will be presenting. Yeah.
ಶರಣಾಗತ ನಿಜ ಜನವರದೇ ಶರಣಾಗತ ನಿಜ ಜನವರದೆ ಶರಣಾಗತ ನಿಜ ಜನವರದೆ ನಂಗಡಕಿಡತಕ 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 ಧೀಂ ನಂಗಡಕಿಡತಕ ಧೀಂ ನಂಗಡಕಿಡತಕ ಧೀಂ ಶರಣಾಗತ ನಿಜ ಜನವರದೆ ಶರಣಾಗತ ನಿಜ ಜನವರದೆ ಶರಣಾಗತ ನಿಜ ಜನವರದೆ ಶರಣಾಗತ ನಿಜ ಜನವರದೆ ಧಿಂ ತಂಗ್ ದಿನ ತತಕ್ ತಂಗ್ ದಿನ 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 ಧಿಂ ತಂಗ್ ಧಿಂ ತಂಗ್ ಧಿಂ ತಂಗ್ ತಜ್ಜಂ ತಗಜಂ ತದ್ದಿ ತಗದಿನ ತಗಜಂ ತದ್ದಿ ತಗದಿನ ತಗಜಂ ತದ್ದಿ ತಗದಿನ ತಗದಜ್ಜಂ ತಗಜಂ ತದ್ದಿ ತಗದಿನ ತಗಜಂ ತದ್ದಿ ತಗದಿನ ತಗಜಂ ತದ್ದಿ ತಗದಿನ ತಗದಜ್ಜಂ ತಗಜಂ ತದ್ದಿ ತಗದಿನ ತಗಜಂ ತದ್ದಿ ತಗದಿನ ತಗಜಂ ತದ್ದಿ ತಗದಿನ ತಗಧಿಂ
ಚತುರ್ಬಾಹು ಸಮನ್ವಿತಾ ರಾಗಸ್ವರೂಪಪಾಷಾಢ್ಯ ಕ್ರೋಧಾಕಾರಾಂಕುಶೋಜ್ವಲಾ ಕಾಲಾಭ್ರಾಭಾಂಗಣಾಕ್ಷೈರರಿಕುಲಭಯದಾಂ ಮೌಳಿಬದ್ಧೇಂದುರೇಖಾಂ ಶಂಖಂ ಚಕ್ರಂ ಕೃಪಾಣಂ ತ್ರಿಶಿಖಮಪಿ ಕರೈರುದ್ವಹಂತೀಂದ್ರನೇತ್ರಾಂ ಸಿಂಹಸ್ಕಂಧಾಧಿರೂಢಾಂ ತ್ರಿಭುವನಮಖಿಲಂ ತೇಜಸಾ ಪೂರಯಂತಿ ध्यायेद्दुर्गां जयाख्यां धृतश परिवृतां सेवितां सिद्धिकामैः
ಶರಣಾಗತ ನಿಜ ಜನವರದೆ ಶರಣಾಗತ ನಿಜ ಜನವರದೆ ಶರಣಾಗತ ನಿಜ ಜನವರದೆ ಧಿಂ 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 ತರಿಗಿಡತಂ 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 ಧಿಂ ತದತ್ತಿ ತಕ್ ದಿನ್ನ ಧಿಂ ತದತ್ತಿ ತಕ್ ದಿನ್ನ ಧಿಂ ತದತ್ತಿ ತಕ್ ದಿನ್ನ ಧಿಂ ತದತ್ತಿ ತಕ್ ದಿನ್ನ ಧಿಂ thit tak dhin dhim tada thit tak dhin dhim tada thit tak dhin dhim tada thit tak dhin dhim. Tadhanata tak dhanata dhana dhanata janu januta dhimi dhimita kita kitata kitata dari kitata dhim. Tadhanata tak dhanata janu januta dhimi dhimita dhana dhanata janu januta kitata dari kitata dhim. Tadhanata tak dhanata dhana dhanata janu januta dhimi dhimita kita kitata kitata dari kitata dhim. Tadhanata tak dhanata janu januta dhimi dhimita dhana dhanata janu januta kitata dari kitata dhim. Takkadataga dari kadataga thit takkadataga dari kadataga thit takkadataga dari kadataga tadiginatum 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 tadigina takkadataga dari kadataga thit takkadataga dari kadataga thit takkadataga dari kadataga tadiginatum 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 tadigina tadiginatum tagatadikinatum tagadigu tadiginatum tadiginatum tagatadikinatum tagadigu tadiginatum tadiginatum tagatadikinatum tagadigu tadiginatum Gata nija janavarade.
Thank you very much, Katyayani. That was a connection between dance, music, community, observance of agriculture, gender connections, and many, many more things. But what was important was the aspect of the theatrics that Katyayani brought, from where Anil V. Iyer will take off his presentation. Anil V. Iyer is a student of dance with Guru Srimati Narmada and Poornima Gururaja, a student of Carnatic music with late Vidwan D.V. Nagraj, theatre with B. Jayashree, and currently pursuing a PhD in psychology. Anwesha brought connections through tangible objects like sculpture and painting. Katyayani looked at the body. Anil is going to be looking at the connection between mind and thought, ideas and action, a connection of how the body articulates, feels a sensation, and transforms that feeling into space. Anil V. Iyer.
Hello, hello, check. Hello, hello. Sorry. Hello, hello. Hello.
This is the immersive work. When I was trying to set up something, I could hear my fellow panelists asking me what happened. But that's about the theater. You know, as an actor, I'm trying to organize something, calm myself, or manage my own butterflies. I could see some of you in the audience also feel a little jittery. if I sit in the audience and the performer is not ready, I feel restless because the performer is restless on the stage. And that's the Abhinaya that happens from the theater. Namaskaram to all of you. So when we speak of theater and Abhinaya, we often imagine the visible, the gestures, the expressions, the singing, or the staging. But what fascinates me here is what lies in between. That is the moment before the gesture arises. Now when I'm moving my hand like this, what happens with that moment? How my gesture arises and what happens before the emotion takes its form. The subtle space between the tangible and the intangible is the Abhinaya here. So I might look at someone and say, especially, we have a revered guru, Lalita auntie would say, Namaskaram auntie, I would take blessings. And some other friend, I would say that, hey, hi. And there's a different smile. There's a different sense of respect, warmth that we share. And all of these happens between what I see or who I see and what they stimulate in me. And that process is the Abhinaya in theater, where we bring our life experiences in a practiced or rehearsed or a processed form as a product before an audience member. So it is here that theater becomes not just performance, but experience, a living process of sensing, feeling, and as well realizing. So I'm mostly emphasizing today about the experiential learning and experiential process, both as an actor or a performer and the audience together experience it. And I wish to reflect on how the space, the delicate threshold, allows us to connect life and art through Abhinaya as an experiential practice. And I'm extremely glad to introduce Shlagya Vasishta, who will be my co-performer today. And actually, we are going to be impromptu on stage, absolutely not rehearsed. So let's see what is the experience that all of us going to put together, you, me, her, all of us. So on this experiential journey, as I continue to focus, how theater teaches us to sense, to internalize and express. Only when I sense something, when I feel these petals and the texture of it, some are bloom, some are dried, and there is a difference of that texture. And as I see, the sense translates, there is some internalization happening where my mind is constantly processing. Human brains are so good, so capable of translating it so quickly, right? That internalization comes only with life experiences. And through that internalization process, then I relate to, in a performing context, saying, I see this, then, it's so beautiful, right? That the subtlety in my tonality, the pace, and the rhythm of the text, when I say, it's so beautiful, right? The subtlety of it comes, or each word has a rhythm that comes only through experiential, internalizing aspect, and then translating it to expression. So here, when you look at it, to illustrate this, I'll also perform a short excerpt there that moves away from Natyadharmi stylization into the most lived, felt world of Lokadharmi, Abhinaya there, which I would take you all through as I proceed. The first aspect that I would like to talk about is representation and realization. In theater, representation is never mere imitation. It is representation, which means a re-seeing or re-experimenting of reality. So as performers, we do not show emotion, rather we become it. We are an emotion. We traverse from what is seen and to what it is felt. So Bharata's Natya Shastra gives us the vocabulary, bhava, rasa, anubhava, sattvika bhava. But these are not just aesthetic categories, but there are also phases or steps that we can call stages of experiential transformation an artist would go through. So theater is not only a mirror of life, but it is also the mirror within, reflecting our own processes of perception and responses. It makes visible and invisible journey between stimulus and expression. Now, when we talk about between stimulus and expression, this visible and invisible journey, Abhinaya is not a linear progression. It's always going. I remember Anwesha talking about the oscillating process, right? And we had Katyayani talk about the 3 stages of different bodily postures there. Abhinaya is all about, maybe let's say it's like doughing, making it ready for a chapati tonight, right? So we go through that lot of process, churn, create something through back and forth movement. I remember Maya Krishna Rao, a very legendary theatre artist, telling, when she was training us, she was telling, bijli hona chahiye, andar se bijli. When she says that, there is always that movement, which says, there's always a stimulus and an artist need to have a dialogue always. I see a stimulus, I feel something. When I respond, a stimulus has to react to my response. Of course, it's a non-living thing, but then that's the ability of a performer to engage, have dialogue. Only then there will be an outcome, what we call it as rasa at the end of it. So here, I'm going to present a small piece, a lullaby. I am going to present what my mother used to take care of all my neighbors' kids or my cousins and all. What I have observed, for the lack of better word, I would say, these joli anta heltare, battel kattirtare. So, the cloth cradle and all, how she always had one iron rod to hang, and then this always ready cotton sari made joli cradle and all. How she would take care of the child. That representation is so vivid in my memory that when I teach my students also, I try to recreate that because I feel it's so real. Right? A lullaby for you all from a beautiful play, Lavakusha.
Jagadanandana jo jo lali jo jo Jagadanandana jo jo lali jo jo Lali Shri Janapala Tanayane Suguna Gambhiravadana Jagadanandana Jo Jo Lalilu Jagadanandana Jo Jo Lali Jo Ha जनकज सुतरागी रघुवंशोद्भवरागी अडवियोळिंतु बाಳುವ परि आयते निಮಗೆ जो ओ बाಳುವ परि आयते निಮಗೆ जो ओ जगदानंदन जो जो ललीलो
The recreation over here, not sure how many of you could watch it. What I had observed was the pace of my wrist that moves. I've often heard people say, Jora guards beta maguna, metta guards. I mean, be gentle. That the pace of movement of wrist makes a huge difference of the intensity of engaging with your child. And then when you notice me patting, at the end, I'm slowing down. The whole body is Abhinaya there. So the intensity of patting, intensity of moving, the pace at which it moves, everything has rhythm. And that's from our life, when we use this rhythm and bring it back onto our performances, it becomes more alive. So when we see a dancer's tear, we're not responding to the tear itself. We are responding to the truth of emotion that the tear reveals. So here, that truth, fleeting as well as ungraspable, is the intangible essence of Abhinaya. The next part I would be talking about is the stimulus, sensation, and expression. So now, when we look at this experiential transformation process in these three movements, first there is a stimulus, right? The subject, the moment, the encounter. Something in the world calls your attention. Now for me, someone's walking in and the door's open, the light is leaking, that calls my attention. And someone greeting and saying that, oh, Hegde Nritya, and all of that calls my attention. So that's the stimulus that's happening, right? And then comes the sensation, how it lands within us. So every time when you see a stimulus, there is a sensation process. All of us here have all 5 sensations working effectively, and for some, lack of one sense, there's always a heightened sensation with some other sense organs there, right? So the stir of feeling, the quickening of breath, a change in the rhythm of thought is what the sensation process is. If you notice, for each emotion, there's always a different pace of breath that we feel. And when I came in, I had a different breath because I was like, okay, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to do. And now I can sense that my heart's beating more. And the same thing when I'm presenting in a dance, in a performance, if I have to talk about anxiety, I have to recall an anxious moment and see what happens to my breath. And how quickly I'm breathing, or maybe how shallow is my breath, and then how am I trying to catch my breath. All of these are the sensation process that when we recreate it, that's the Abhinaya process that we are able to touch upon the audience's reflections as well. And finally arrives is the expression. So the outward ripple of that inner vibration. So now I'm sensing something and I'm able to tune myself into it and then present it. So the outward expression would be the last aspect of this expression. I thought of doing small presentation, but I'll go forward. Hopefully it can pay attention to this segment. So here the performer lives in that middle zone, which is between receiving and expressing. What happens is the sensation. And if we do not become more aware of our sensational process or be more observant of our environment, we do lack our ability to understand. I remember one of my dear friends was also Lalita Auntie's student. Some of you had watched, Manu's daughter perform day before yesterday, I think. She was a little girl. I remember watching her in K.A. Prabhat. Her expressions were so bright in those big Batladke Kannu anta. I remember him telling that, you should watch little children because the Abhinaya is so not manipulated, right? So just giving the example because we all can relate to her here in this audience. We all have to be more observant of what's happening in order to absorb and then assimilate and present it. So the performer lives in that middle zone, and there, between the receiving and expressing is where the Abhinaya is born. Abhinaya is not born in the expression, that's the third part of it. So the Natya Shastra speaks of Sattvika Bhava, those involuntary inner states, trembling, tears, stillness. Whereas when you look at it in modern theater, the Russian theater director Stanislavski calls this as emotional truth. This is not just merely stimulated, but it is deeply felt. He identifies how as actors, as performers, you have to deeply feel in order to invoke something that you intend to do. And also, New York-born theater professor and anthropologist Sketchner describes it, the same process, as restored behavior, which means you're constantly doing the same thing, and then you're relived, you're not reacted out, right? So any action that is relived And the behavior that is twice behaved or consciously embodied becomes Abhinaya. And if you look at it, some of the mundane activities that you see in our household has subtle Abhinaya. It could be just our parents taking their pallu and tucking in. You know, you can understand that how they're tucking in. Or if you see our parents, our dads, or our siblings trying to comb their hair or look at themselves into the mirror, each one has different ways of presenting, which comes from constant redoing of it. So it's also about how, you know, this, when you're constantly redoing it, your actions become the director of your Abhinaya. So the process of it. It's different languages, but the same insight, where expression is not reproduction, it is re-experiencing. In this sense, theatre and Abhinaya are forms of experiential learning. John Dewey says that, you know, knowledge arises through doing, through lived experiences reflected upon. It's not from passive reception, but from doing, sensing, and reflecting. Very importantly, as performers, what we explore in theatre medium, maybe some of the dance practitioners also, is that how every performance becomes a field of inquiry. You need to look at, how do I sense this world? Now this is the space, how do I sense it? What transforms that sensation into meaning? And how does that meaning finds its voice through the body? Just to highlight this, a small excerpt from a beautiful play called Chitrapata, directed by B. Jayashree, music by Anjana Puri, and written by H.S. Venkatesh Murthy, where the actor is identifying the space, there's a field of inquiry, and then understanding what happens to the body, and then reflecting on it.
ಮಣ್ಣಿನೊಂದಿಗೆ ಗಿಡ ಹೋದ ಸಂಗಡ ಮಣ್ಣಿನೊಂದಿಗೆ ಗಿಡ ಹೋದ ಸಂಗಡ ಮಣ್ಣಿನೊಂದಿಗೆ ಗಿಡ ಹೋದ ಸಂಗಡ ಮಣ್ಣಿನೊಂದಿಗೆ ಗಿಡ ಹೋದ ಸಂಗಡ ಭೂಸುತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ 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 ಆಕಾಶದಲ್ಲಿ 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 ಪರವಧುಕಾಮಿ ಆಕಾಶಗಾಮಿ ಪರವಧುಕಾಮಿ ಆಕಾಶಗಾಮಿ ಹಾರಿ ಬರುತ್ತಾ ನೀರ್ಯಾನು ಹದ್ದ.
The wheel of inquiry moves from Ravana to his few other Sitas, people, and then what happens? There's a slight shift as soon as they see Jatayu
rotating and then vanished. Oh, gosh, what a tragedy. So this is how, you know, when you're constantly looking at it, of course with practice, this is a rehearsed work, but the process of it takes much longer time. So Abhinaya is a bridge between life and art. That's the next segment. All of us are performers or not. We practice Abhinaya every day. So think of how we speak, how we comfort, how we conceal emotion. Life itself is a series of Abhinayas, of expressing, disguising, sharing, or containing it. So when we step into theatre, we do not abandon this reality at any point in time. It's just that we deepen it. We heighten our awareness that we experience in our daily life. It is just much more structured, much more aware, and let's say, you know, we are intentionally creating something. So we explore how the body and breath can hold experience without words. It is almost like, there are different doorways for the same attempt. Now, if I say Kadagola Tarana, I know so many wonderful artists here, and all of you I've watched 5 of them here in the audience in 5 different ways, because each one have a different doorways coming from their life experiences. So that is Abhinaya. In this space, the distinction between life and art blurs. So theater teaches us not to act, but to realize about our life experiences. And the realization is deeply embodied experience and awareness that comes from within. So that is why, when I say Abhinaya, it is not just as a performance, but as a presence of an actor or a performer. It is about being alive to every stimulus around us, physical, emotional, sensory, and as well as allowing that aliveness to shape the rhythm of expression. So this is where Abhinaya becomes a practice of mindfulness, a form of sahridaya, shared feeling where the performer and the spectator dwell together in this experience. Something that I'm going to present again is from Lavakusha, a company play of Gubbi Veerana company, and has no gestures, no, usual as a dancer, what we present, padartha or vakyartha, but going to only present the bhavartha here.
ತೋರೆದ ನಿನ್ನ ಪತಿ ನಿರ್ದಯದೆ ತೋರೆದ ನಿನ್ನ ಪತಿ ನಿರ್ದಯದೆ ತೋರೆದ ನಿನ್ನ ಪತಿ ನಿರ್ದಯದೆ ಆದೆಯ ನಾಥೇ ಆಶ್ರಯರಹಿತೆ ಆದೆಯನಾಥೇ ಆಶ್ರಯರಹಿತೆ ತೋರೆದ ನಿನ್ನ ಪತಿ ನಿರ್ದಯದೆ ವನದೇವತೆಗಳೇ ಜಲಕನ್ಯೆಯರೇ ವನದೇವತೆಗಳೇ ಜಲಕನ್ಯೆಯರೇ ಗಗನದೊಳಡಗಿದ ಅದೃಶ್ಯ ಶಕ್ತಿಯೇ ಗಗನದೊಳಡಗಿದ ಅದೃಶ್ಯ ಶಕ್ತಿಯೇ ಬಯಲೇ ಭಾವಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಲುಕದ ಶೂನ್ಯವೇ ಬಯಲೇ ಭಾವಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಲುಕದ ಶೂನ್ಯವೇ ತಳೀರೆನ್ನನು ನಿಮ್ಮೋಳಿಂದು ತೋರೆದ ನಿನ್ನ ಪತಿ ನಿರ್ದಯದೆ ಭೂಮಿ ಕನ್ಯೆನ ಜನಕನಂದಿನಿ ಭೂಮಿ ಕನ್ಯೆನ ಜನಕನಂದಿನಿ ರಘುವರ ನಿನ್ನಯ ಪ್ರಾಣಪತಿಯ ರಘುವರ ನಿನ್ನಯ ಪ್ರಾಣಪತಿ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ನಿರಾಶ್ರಿತೆ ಎನಿಸಿ ನಿಮ್ಮನೆ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ನಿರಾಶ್ರಿತೆ ಎನಿಸಿ ನಿಮ್ಮನೆ ಆಶ್ರಯಿಸಿರುವೆ ಆನಂದಿತೆ ತೋರೆದ ನಿನ್ನ ಪತಿ ನಿರ್ದಯದೆ ತೋರೆದ ನಿನ್ನ ಪತಿ ನಿರ್ದಯದೆ ರಾಮ ರಾಮ ಜಯ ಶ್ರೀರಾಮ ರಾಮ ರಾಮ ಜಯ ಶ್ರೀರಾಮ
So the idea here that you could see how there's a lot of not codified mudras, right, or a particular gestures there to indicate, but the internal struggle of abandonment that Sita went through. So this piece, you could see how emerges not the expression does not emerge from a gesture, but from inner movement. Subtle things, of course, a lot of things that I've observed what BJ Shri has enacted or shown in our practice sessions is those movements of moving the thumb over the fingernails and trying to, hold gut-wrenching experience. You actually hold on to your gut because that's what your body does when you're experiencing it. So relating to what happens to you in such situations. So there is the breath, the shift in a gaze, the quiet recognition that precedes every visible emotion. So here, when you look at it, the Abhinaya in theatre, you could hear wonderful rendition by Shlagya, where the musicality plays a huge role. And it is the bhavartha, the larger picture of Abhinaya through the music as a performer that we presented. And the bhava is enough and good to do justice in crafting an imagery. We just don't have to show Toredanannapati Nirdayanade. I don't have to do that. I can just show collapsing of the body to show how alone I am, right? So this is the Abhinaya that breathes, that arises from the experiences of being moved, not merely the technique of the movement. So the last aspect that I'm going to present here is the reflection of it, and the synthesis of this presentation is that, theatre reminds us that the experience cannot be fully codified. Between sensation and articulation lies a vast space. Now this is a vast space that we are all in it, right? The space of reflection, intuition and transformation. A lot of us are intuitive. And if we are aligning or keep heightening our awareness to our intuitions, we actually do a lot more justice when we are expressing something. In Bharatanatyam, Abhinaya often travels through the form. In theatre, it often travels through the process. But at their heart, both share a common search, which is then to reveal the rasa lives beneath these experiences. So when we engage with Abhinaya experientially, we are not only performing a character, we are also encountering ourselves, our memories, our empathies, and our perceptions. The stage becomes a site of learning through embodiment. It is in this sense that, as a theatre artist, as rather I would say, I call myself as a performing artist, as an experiential teacher, whereas theatre being a strong experiential teacher, one that teaches us how to sense deeply, respond truthfully, and express meaningfully. When we notice even those little leaves, how does it move? Deeply reflecting on it makes us understand. Often I keep telling when I'm teaching or engaging is that, sense the texture of it. Each one has a texture. We don't have to go to the West to talk about mindfulness practices, mindfulness eating, etc., because our art form, process of Abhinaya is a mindfulness practice to a large extent. So the tangible and the intangible are not the two worlds. They are the two pulses of the same rhythm, one felt within and the other is revealed without. In conclusion, Abhinaya is not merely the art of showing emotion, it is the practice of becoming an emotion. It invites us to inhabit that delicate threshold between life and performance, where the personal meets the universal, which the connection we did here in the other presentations as well, and sensation blossoms into an aesthetic revelation. So to me, this is the living essence of theatre, to experience, to embody, and to share. And since due to time constraint, I'm ending it here. Unfortunately, not presenting another piece there. So I thank Shlagya for the support here. Thank you so much, Shlagya, for agreeing and being a co-performer today, co-presenter today. And at the outset, my deepest gratitude to B. Jayashri for introducing company theatre songs, Gubbi Company's songs, and also a lot of learning that I've had through the years, decades of engagement with her. And of course, last not but the least is to Nupura, Lalita Aunty, Manu Srinivasan and my Guru Poornima Gururaja for inviting me to share my experiential learning with you all. Definitely a different experience today. Namaskara.
A couple of concluding remarks. I cannot help but recall Guru Nalanajan, who was a white American at this point. It was a very deep connection between Lalita Aunty and me. Lalita Aunty recognized and brought to us Padma Sampath, a practitioner of Bharatanatyam in New York, who had learned Bharatanatyam with a white guru, who had in turn learnt Bharatanatyam in India in the late 50s and early 60s. He was given a scholarship to a very prestigious institution from which he ran away to find hereditary dancers to practice in Tanjavur and in Mysore. And his art form went 3 generations, performed only in New York, encapsulated there, and then Lalita Aunty recognizes Padma Sampath's immense talent and brings her over for a workshop. And my relationship with Padma Sampath then continues for 3 or 4 years. And I see textual learning as aesthetic learning. You borrow from a text, you recreate what the text says, you put in your body aesthetics and learn. But learning from observing, from anubhava, from experienced teachers and observing them, sitting with that observation for years becomes what is called immersive learning. And surprisingly, this white American took this hereditary dancer's vocabulary to New York and sat with it for many, many, many years. He was a contemporary of Ted Shawn, Le Marie, all of who were exploring Oriental dancers, including Uday Kumar. But he stuck to this vocabulary of Indian dance. He had learned many art forms other than Bharatanatyam also. Today, we see the Mysore Jati. There is the music of the Mysore Jati, but there are several interpretations, bringing movements of Ganapati into it. Nalanajan has said in his book that Padma Sampath published that this Ashtadikpalaka Jati was meant as an Ashtadikpalaka Puja for the 8 directions in a temple. It was a ritual practice that came to the proscenium stage. And all 8 directions have particular hastas invented for them that has not come out of any text. Nalanajan took this kind of vocabulary, took Chinese hand gestures from the Russian tradition, and reinvented a hasta gestural tradition of his own that Padma Sampath has used. I'm just going to demonstrate one. For Mangala, he looks at the Kalasha, which is a very prominent ritualistic practice in every religious event in India, and he creates this hasta, and he takes it upwards. Every time he shows Shiva as auspiciousness or something that creates Mangala, Devi, for example, creating Mangala, this hand is slowly raised in respectful reverence, this showing the pot and this, the coconut above it. To me, it was very relevant. We learned so many other hastas from Padma Sampath that was not exactly in any text at all. So just like Anwesha said, they practice in their ashrams, monasteries, or temples, or sattars, as she calls them. So the environment of the textiles, the Bhagavat Purana, the Arupa form of God, all of them are imbibed in these dancers to bring out this feeling of Abhinaya. Like Anil said, absorption, sensation, and then giving out. As the word Abhinaya says, Abhinaya itself means bringing towards. What will you bring towards if you have not imbibed, if your pot is not full, then what will you bring forth? Katyayani was talking about the hand. Nritta lends itself beautifully to be layered on a text because most of the times we use Nritta very equanimously with the right and the left side or the front and the back. The movements are all very geometric. So it's easy, like Katyayani said, when one hand is working and the other hand is not, does any text prescribe for you how the other hand should be? No. So this also comes from observing, analyzing, imbibing. Huh? Nobody will tell you. So Abhinaya, in conclusion, is an extremely individualized, extremely personal experience that you share with many, 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 many people. And when there is a sahridaya or somebody of equal vibration between you, the concept, and them, there is that ultimate feeling of rasa. With this, I've used this word immersion over and over and over again in this presentation, and I want to make it clear that this immersion is not actually drowning in something, it's absorbing something, it's watching it, absorbing it, internalizing it, so that it becomes your body, and then giving it out. And Anwesha's presentation, she was telling me in the Sattars, this movement, right? Yeah, the outward movement and the inward movement is the beginning of all of their dance, which indicates internalizing the outer world and putting out the inner world for people to see. Abhinaya makes a dancer very vulnerable. Their innermost feelings come out. Their vasanas also, the dancer's vasanas, I think become very, very important. So as much as my colleague Anuradha rightly said yesterday about the Natya Shastra and its elements being layered on Nritta, I feel in conclusion, Abhinaya is quite the opposite. A text can give us hastas, a text can explain to us what bhava, vibhava, anubhava and satvika bhava means, but ultimately Abhinaya rests in the body and the mind of the dancer and the audience. Thank you, Lalita Auntie, and thank you, Manu, for such a beautiful topic today. I hope we have connected sculpture, paintings, textiles, dance, theater, farming communities, the mind, the sensation, and expression all together. It was a wonderful experience finding connections between all of this to bring it to one universal theme of Abhinaya and one point of a dancer's mind and body. Thank you very much. We are open for anybody in the audience who have questions and any takeaways they have, only 2 or 3. Please, for lack of time. Thank you so much. The first question of mine goes to Anwesha, though. Anwesha, I did not know till today that you have half body and full body masks too. So when Anil was talking about bhava, and both of them use their bodies and their face so much, what are these masks doing with Abhinaya in Satriya is my question.
Thank you so much, Poornima ji, for allowing me to elaborate on this. So the facial mask, mukh mukha, that's used for certain characters, and for example, for Asura, we would use mukh mukha, and if you ask a mask maker that why, why do we focus on one particular expression which is so particularly, which we see only in the mask? The other expressions are missing, which we can show in the face. He would say that the mask expresses that reflective moment which your face cannot. So that inner attribute of the character is shown in the mask. So that's why, like for example, Asura, Putana or Taraka, we have masks in the bhavana, but we don't use it in the dance. In the bhavana, that's the Natya. Then we will have the half masks where characters like Garuda we would use. So the Garuda would be there, the movements are restricted. The Garuda movement is hey, hey, so the mask is here. Then the life-size masks, where we have the whole huge life-size mask. For that, movements are restricted. And to specialize on that, we have later on the Mukha Bhavana tradition, which evolved at a later point. And all the characters we see only in masks. So for life-size masks, we have the Narasimha mask. And the Hiranyakashipu character, he wouldn't be wearing mask, or even if he wears the mask, it would be half size. But the life-size mask itself will speak of its grandeur. You don't need much movements. The movements would be restricted because it's a life-size, enormous mask. So I think that the body of the mask itself will speak on its own. So yeah.
Any feedback or questions from the audience? Can we have house lights, please? Any questions or feedback? Thank you, Anwesha, for traveling all the way from Guwahati for this. Katyayani from Hyderabad. Anil, our very own, thank you for being on this team. Text versus context is not the right way to say it. Text and context. Yesterday was all about the text. Today was all about the context. Hope you had a great time. Thank you, Anil, for that phrase. I will remember it for a long time.
Once again, a big round of applause to Srimati Poornima Gururaja and the esteemed artists for so beautifully showcasing the connections through Abhinaya amongst the various dance styles. I request Srimati Soma Krishnamurthy to please come onto the dais. Soma Krishnamurthy is a senior dancer of Nupura and the founder of Lalita Shri Nritya Academy. Srimati Poornima Gururaj. Dr. Anwesha Mahanta. Dr. Anwesha Mahanta. Dr. Katyayani Kanak. And Shri Anil V. Iyer. We will have a short break, a 5-minute break to set up the sounds before we start our next segment.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start our next session, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to all our sponsors, donors, and partners for their invaluable support and encouragement towards Nitya Nritya. Infosys Foundation, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Cultural Outreach Program. Shri Jairam Ramaya, Shri Dayanand Pai Endowment, Srimati Kamalama Endowment, Srimati and Shri Puvada Sheshagiri Rao Endowment, Construction Solutions, Shri Prashant Shastri, Srimati Rashmi Rajashekar, Srimati Suma Aital, Srimati Saumya Raghupalan, and Srimati Haripriya Kasturi. We continue this evening's program with Maaravatara, a Yakshagana Solo performance by Keremane Shridhara Hegde. Shridhara Hegde is a distinguished Yakshagana artist and the sixth generation torchbearer of the renowned Keremane family tradition. Raised in a culturally rich environment, he was initiated into Yakshagana in early childhood by his grandfather, the late Keremane Shambhu Hegde, and has since been under the tutelage of his father, Keremane Shivananda Hegde. Shridhara has been actively performing across India with the Idagunji Mahaganapati Yakshagana Mandali, a troupe established in 1934 by his great-grandfather. The Mandali has stepped into its 91st year and has been recognized by UNESCO for its efforts in presenting and promoting the art of Yakshagana. Beyond performance, Shridhara is deeply involved in the socio-cultural aspects of Yakshagana. He has conducted numerous activities such as national art festivals, programs for school children, and research initiatives on dance and music. Under his guidance, the Idagunji Mandali has not only preserved but also innovated within the Yakshagana tradition, ensuring its relevance in contemporary times. Yakshagana is a vibrant traditional dance drama of Karnataka that brings to life stories from the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavata, and Puranas. With its elaborate costumes, powerful dance moments, live improvised music, dramatic and improvised dialogue, Yakshagana unfolds characters and narratives in multiple dimensions, making each performance unique and unrepeatable. Maaravatara was the last choreography and direction of the legendary Sri Keremane Shambhu Hegde, conceptualized along with poet G.R. Pandeshwara. It carries contributions from Keremane Shivananda Hegde, making it a deeply personal and artistic lineage piece. Rich with Apputa, Veera, and Karuna Rasas, the performance interweaves dance, drama, and impromptu dialogue and the live music tradition of Yakshagana. Today, on the music ensemble, we have Shri Anant Hegde Dantalige on vocals, Shri Narasimha Hegde Murur on Maddale, Shri Raman Hegde on Chande, Shravani Hegde and V. Chandana on Chauki and Tere. A brief introduction to the scenes of Maaravatara. The whole universe has entered into a strange state of vacuum, devoid of motility, emotions, and colors. Mara, Manmata or Kamadeva, embodies himself from one of the faces of Vishnu's mind and is on the mission of exploring, reaching, and terminating the source of this strange vacuum, restoring the universe back in all of its glory. The first scene is the embodiment of Mara. Manmata lands himself in the foothills of Himalayas with the hint from one of his attendants, Madan Leela. Manasicha is in Manasa Sarovara and it is the abode of gods. He deduces from the subtle experience that the person responsible for this state of the universe is in the above realms from where he is, but not very far. He gets into deeper search. The second scene is where Mara encounters Shiva. Lord Shiva has entered into the state of fierce penance after losing his wife Sati. Mara learns this separation is the cause of vacuum. He wants to change the mind of Shiva as the universe itself is a reciprocation of Shiva's being. He describes the wonder that he starts seeing. Shiva seated on tiger skin, conquering fear, in a posture that looks like blooming lotus, serpents on all of his body, representing Nadi of the universe. His neck is a garland made of stars, galaxies, and multiple universes, and on his forehead, the light of creation and destruction. he gets ready for the action, a war of peace and sacrifice for the love of the universe, one of its kind that is unheard of. The final scene is the fight and sacrifice for the greater good. Mara throws his 5 special weapons with the spirit of 5 elements, Pushpabana, onto Shiva. Each flower with its unique magical effects opens Shiva back to the world step by step with visible changes in his body and the universe. The effects intensify and get out of control. Instead of normal eyes, Shiva opens the highest, his third eye, to the world, and Mara is burnt in its illuminance and thus becomes immortal. Universe gets restored back into the state of glory and sacrifice and color by sacrifice. It is marked as the first war in the Ahimsa Marka.
विघ्नेशाय सरस्वती पार्वती गुरवे नमः। दक्षिणामूर्तये जैव सर्वकार्यार्थसिद्धये। ತನ್ನಾತ್ಮದೊಳೆ ಸರ್ವ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ಶಕ್ತಿಯ ಧರಿಸಿ, ತನ್ನಾತ್ಮದೊಳೆ ಸರ್ವ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ಶಕ್ತಿಯ ಧರಿಸಿ, ತಣ್ಣಗಾಗಿಸಿ ಸರ್ವ ಜೀವಜಾತಂಗಳಂ ಉನ್ನತ ಹಿಮಾದ್ರಿ ಪರಿಸರದಿ ನಿಷ್ಕ್ರಿಯ ರೂಪನಾಗಿ ಶಿವ ತಪದೊಳಿರಲು ಖಿನ್ನವಾಗಿರೆ ನಿರುತ್ಸಾಹ ತಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಲೋಕ, ಖಿನ್ನವಾಗಿರೆ ನಿರುತ್ಸಾಹ ತಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಲೋಕ. ಪನ್ನಂಗ ಶಯನ ಕುಂಡಲಿಯ ಮೂಲವನೆತ್ತಿ ತನ್ನ ಲೀಲಾಂಗ ಪ್ರೇಮಾವತಾರದ ಮಾರರೂಪ ತನ್ನ ಲೀಲಾಂಗ ಪ್ರೇಮಾವತಾರದ ಮಾರರೂಪವು ತೋರ್ದ ಜಗಗೆ ಆ ತನ್ನ ಲೀಲಾಂಗ ಪ್ರೇಮಾವತಾರದ ಮಾರರೂಪವು ತೋರ್ದ ಜಗಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದ ಬಂದ ಮಾರ ಬಂದ ಬಂದ ಮಾರ ಬಂದ ಬಂದ ಮಾರ ಬಂದ ಬಂದ ಮಾರ ಜಗದೇಕ ಸುಧಾಕರ ಸುಂದರ ಸುಕುಮಾರ ದಿತ್ತಾಗ್ರದಿನ್ನ ತೈದ ತೈದ ದಿತ್ತಾಗ್ರದಿನ್ನಾಥ ದಿತ್ತಾಗ್ರದಿನ್ನ ಬಂತು ನಿಂದ ರಜತಾದ್ರಿ ಸಮೀಪ ಬಂಧುರ ಕರ ಸುಮ ಚಾಪ ಕಲಾಪ ದಿನ್ನ ತೈದ ತೈದ ದಿತ್ತಾಗ್ರಕ ದಿನ್ನಾದೆ ದಿತ್ತಾಗ್ರಕ ದಿನ್ನ ತೈದ ತೈದ ಸುಂದರಾಂಗ ಸಮೋಹನ ಕರ ಕಿರಣ ನಯನಾರುಣ ಧಾರಣ ಸುಂದರಾಂಗಿರತಿ ದೇವಿ ಮನೋರಮಣ ದಿನ್ನ ತೈದ ತೈದ ದಿತ್ತಾಗ್ರಗ ದಿನ್ನಾಥ ದಿತ್ತಾಗ್ರಗ ದಿನ್ನ
ಮೊಗ್ಗುಗಳು ಅರಳಿ ನಿಲ್ಲುತ್ತವಂತೆ. ವಿಚಿತ್ರ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳ ಪ್ರವೇಶವಾದೊಡನೆ ವಿಚಿತ್ರ ಪರಿಣಾಮಗಳುಂಟಾಗುತ್ತವಂತೆ. ನೋಡಿ ನೋಡಿ, ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರವೇಶವಾದೊಡನೆ ಕಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ಕಾಣುವಂತಹ ಕತ್ತಲೆ ದಿಕ್ಕು ದಿಕ್ಕಿಗೆ ಓಡಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಕತ್ತಲೆ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ನಡೀತು. ಹೌದು, ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯ ಸರ್ವ ಹೃದಯವನ್ನು ಆಕರ್ಷಿಸಿ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯ ಸಂಸಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ತೊಡಗುವಂತೆ ಮಾಡಿದಂತಹ ರತೀದೇವಿಯು ಮರುಳಾದದ್ದು ಯಾರಿಗೆ? ಈ ಮಾರನ ರೂಪಕ್ಕಲ್ಲವೇ? ಹೌದು. ನಾನು ನಕ್ಕರೆ ಕೆಂದಾವರೆ ಅರಳಿದಂತೆ, ನಾನು ಕಣ್ ತೆರೆದರೆ ಪ್ರೇಮ ಕಾಮಗಳೆಂಬಂತಹ ಸೂರ್ಯ ಚಂದ್ರರಿಬ್ಬರು ಒಮ್ಮೆಲೆ ಉದಯಿಸಿದ ಹಾಗೆ. ಪೂರ್ಣ ಚಂದ್ರರು ಸೂರ್ಯ ಉದಯಿಸಿದ ಸಮಯ ಯಾವುದು? ಸಂಧ್ಯಾಕಾಲ. ಹೌದು, ಈ ಸಂಧ್ಯಾಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ನಿಂತಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಯಾಕೆ? ಸಂಧಿಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡುವುದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ. ವಿಶ್ವದಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಿರುವ ಕತ್ತಲೆಯನ್ನ, ವೈರಾಗ್ಯವನ್ನ ಹೋಗಲಾಡಿಸುವುದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇದೋ ಸಂಜೆಯ ಪೂರ್ಣ ಚಂದಿರದಂತೆ ಬಂದು ನಿಂತಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಹೌದು, ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯ ವಿಶೇಷತೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಿ ಜೀವ ಜಂತುಗಳು ನಲಿದಾಡುವಂತಹ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಕತ್ತಲೆಯ ಕಾರ್ಮೋಡವನ್ನು ತುಂಬಿತಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬಂತು ಈ ಕತ್ತಲೆ? ಕಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ಕಾಣದ ಕತ್ತಲೆ ಇದು. ಸರ್ವ ಹೃದಯವನ್ನು ಆಕರ್ಷಿಸಿದಂತಹ ಈ ಕತ್ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸೊಗಸಾದ ಆಹಾರವನ್ನು ಉಂಡರೂ ಕೂಡ ರುಚಿಸುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಸುಂದರವಾದ ರೂಪವನ್ನು ಕಂಡರೂ ಕೂಡ ಅನುಭವಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯವಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂತಹ ಕತ್ತಲೆಯೊಂದು ತುಂಬಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ. ನಾಂದಿಯನ್ನ ಮುಗಿಸಿ ಬಂದು ನಿಂತಹ ನಾನು ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ಸೂತ್ರಧಾರ, ಈ ಜಗನ್ನಾಟಕದ ಸೂತ್ರಧಾರನಾದಂತಹ ನಾನು ಆತನನ್ನು ಹುಡುಕುತ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಈ ಕತ್ತಲೆಗೆ ಕಾರಣೀಕರ್ತನಾದಂಥವನು ಎಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾನೆ? ನನ್ನ ಅರಿವಿಗೆ ಬರದ ನಾಟಕವೊಂದು ನಡೆಯುತ್ತಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಆ ಮೂಲವನ್ನು ಹುಡುಕಬೇಕು, ಆ ಕತ್ತಲೆಯ ಮೂಲವನ್ನು ಹುಡುಕಬೇಕು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಹುಡುಕುತ್ತಾ ಹುಡುಕುತ್ತಾ ಮುಂದೆ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತೇನಂತೆ.
ಶಿಖರ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ತಳತಳಿಸುತ್ತಿದೆ. ರಜತಗಿರಿ ಶಿಖರ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಹೊಳೆ ಹೊಳೆಯುತ್ತಿದೆ. ಮಾನಸದ ಮುಕುರ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಹೊಳೆ ಹೊಳೆಯುತ್ತಿದೆ. ಮಾನಸದ ಮುಕುರ ಇದುವೆ ನಿರ್ವಿಷಯ ವಾತಾವರಣ. ಉರಿ ಉರಿ ಇಲ್ಲದೆಯೇ ಉರಿಯುವನು ತರಣಿ. ಇದಕ್ಕೋ ಉರಿ ಉರಿ ಇಲ್ಲದೆಯೇ ಉರಿಯುವುದೆಯೇ ಉರಿಯುವನು ತರಣಿ. ಆ
ಇದೆಂತಹ ವಿಶೇಷವಾದಂತಹ ಪ್ರದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಬಂದು ಮುಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಜಗತ್ತನ್ನ ಹುಡುಕಿದೆ, ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ಮೂಲೆ ಮೂಲೆಯನ್ನ ಕಂಡೆ. ಆ ನಂತರದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಮಾರನಿಗೆ ಕಂಡಿದ್ದು ಇದೋ ಈ ಕೈಲಾಸ ಪರ್ವತಗಳ ಶ್ರೇಣಿ. ಹುಡುಕುತ್ತಾ ಹುಡುಕುತ್ತಾ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಿಯ ಸೇವಕ ಮಂದಾನಿಲ ತಿಳಿಸಿದಂತೆ ಆ ಕತ್ತಲೆಯ ಮನೆ ಈ ಕೈಲಾಸದಲ್ಲಿದೆಯಂತೆ. ಆದರೆ ವಿಪರ್ಯಾಸವನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಕಾಣುತ್ತಿರುವಂಥದ್ದು ನಾನು ಧವಳಗಿರಿಯನ್ನು, ಇಡೀ ವಿಶ್ವದ ಬಿಳಿಯನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ತನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ಕ್ರೋಢೀಕರಿಸಿ ಥಳಥಳನೆ 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 ಹೊಳೆಯುತ್ತಿರುವಂತಹ ಈ ಹಿಮರಾಯನ ಶಿರೋರತ್ನ. ಹಿಮಾಲಯೋ ನಾಮ ನಗಾಧಿರಾಜ ಎಂಬಂತಹ ಮಾತು ಎಷ್ಟು ಸತ್ಯ ಅಲ್ಲವೇ? ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ, ಅಗೋ ಹಿಮರಾಯನ ಪಾದವನ್ನು ತೊಳೆಯುತ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಮಾನಸ ಸರೋವರ, ವಿಶಾಲವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಚ್ಛವಾಗಿ ಹರಡಿಕೊಂಡಿರುವಂತಹ ಈ ಮಾನಸ ಸರೋವರ ತಿಳಿಯಾಗಿದೆ. ಹೌದು, ತನ್ನ ಮೇಲೆ ಬೀಳುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರಕಾಶವನ್ನು ಪ್ರತಿಫಲಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ತನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ಏನನ್ನೂ ಇಟ್ಟುಕೊಳ್ಳದೆ ನಮಗೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನೇ ತೋರಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ. ಹೌದು, ಈ ಕನ್ನಡಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳಬೇಕು. ಇದು ಮಾನಸ ಸರೋವರ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡೀ ವಿಶ್ವಕ್ಕೆ ಉರಿಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡುವಂತಹ ಮೊದಲ ಅಗ್ನಿ ಆ ಸೂರ್ಯ ನಾಚಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಉರಿ ಇಲ್ಲದೆಯೇ ಬೆಳಗುತ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ನಿಂತ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಆದ ಪರಿಣಾಮಗಳೇನು ಗೊತ್ತುಂಟ? ಈ ಮನ್ಮಥನಲ್ಲಿ, ಈ ನಾಟಕದ ಸೂತ್ರಧಾರನಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ವಿಷಯ ವಾಸನೆಗಳು ಸಹಜವಾಗಿ ಕರಗು ಹೋಗುತ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ತಂಪಾದ ಗಾಳಿ ಮೈಯನ್ನು ಇರಿದು ಆಲಸ್ಯವನ್ನು ದೂರೀಕರಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಹೌದು, ಇದು ನಿರ್ವಿಷಯದ ತವರು ಮನೆ, ದೇವತೆಗಳ ಜನ್ಮಭೂಮಿ. ಹೌದು, ಆದ್ದರಿಂದಲೇ
ಇಲ್ಲಿರುವನಂತೆ ಶಿವ ಇಲ್ಲಿರುವನಂತೆ ಶಿವ ಇಲ್ಲಿರುವನಂತೆ ಶಿವ ತಪದಿ ಛಲವೇರೆದು ಎಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಎಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಹುಡುಗಿ ಬಹನೀಗ ಎಲ್ಲಿರುವ 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 ಹುಡುಗಿ ಬಹನೀಗ ಭುಲ್ಲ ಸುಮ ಶರದಿಂದ ಭುಲ್ಲ ಸುಮ ಶರದಿಂದ ಎಚ್ಚರಿಪೆ 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 ಬೇಗ ಎಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಎಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಹುಡುಗಿ ಬಯನೀಗ ಭುಲ್ಲ ಸುಮ ಶರದಿಂದ ಎಚ್ಚರಿಪೆ ಬೇಗ
ದೇವತೆಗಳ ತವರು ಮನೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿರುವನಂತೆ ಶಿವ. ಆ ಶಿವ ಪರಶಿವನ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂತಾದ್ರೆ ಇಂತಹ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿಯೇ ಅಲ್ಲವೇ? ಹೌದು. ಈ ವಿಷಯ ವಾಸನೆಗಳ ಸೂಡನ್ನ ಹಿಡಿದುಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಂತಹ ನನಗೆ ಪರಶಿವನ ವಿಚಾರ ನೆನಪಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಸತಿ ವಿಯೋಗದಿಂದ ಸಂಸಾರದ ಕ್ಷಣಿಕ ಸುಖಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇಸತ್ತಂತಹ ಪರಶಿವನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಘೋರವಾದಂತಹ ತಪಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಆಚರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. ಹಾಗಾದರೆ ತಪಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಆಚರಿಸುವುದು ತಪ್ಪೇ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಯಾವ ಭಾವದಿಂದ ಈತ ಕುಳಿತಿದ್ದಾನೆ? ವೈರಾಗ್ಯದಿಂದ, ಶೋಕದಿಂದ ಕುಳಿತಿರುವಂತಹ ಈತನ ತಪಸ್ಸಿನ ಕಾರಣದಿಂದಾಗಿ ಎಂತಹ ಅನರ್ಥವಾಗಿ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಜಗತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ. ಹೌದು, ಮಾನಸ ಸರೋವರದವರೆಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನೆ, ಮನಸ್ಸಿನ ಹಂತಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಇನ್ನು ಮೇಲೆ ಪರಶಿವನಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಎಂಬಂತಹ ವಿಚಾರವನ್ನು ತಿಳಿದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಹೌದು, ಆ ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಮಂಡಲಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಆ ಪರಶಿವನನ್ನ ಕಂಡು ಆತನ ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನ, ಆತನ ಆಂತರ್ಯವನ್ನು ಬದಲಿಸಬೇಕು. ಈ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಅದೃಶ್ಯ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ನಾನು ಇದು ಈ ಮಾರಾವತಾರವನ್ನು ಪಡೆದು ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ? ಶೀಘ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಡುಕಬೇಕು. ಅದು ಆ ಮೇಲಿನ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ತಳಿರ ತಣ್ಣೆರಳು ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಯಾರೋ ಕುಳಿತಿದ್ದಾರಾ? ಹೇಗೆ? ತಡ ಮಾಡುವುದಲ್ಲ. ಕಂಡೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಇಗೋ ಈ ಪರಶಿವನನ್ನ ಕಂಡ ಮೇಲೆ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗೆ ಇನ್ನಾವ ಇಚ್ಛೆ ತಾನೇ ಉಳಿದೀತು. ನೋಡಿ, ಈತನನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದರೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ವಿವರಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಚಲುವಿನ ಬಳ್ಳಿ. ಈತ ಕುಳಿತಿರುವಂತಹ ಭಂಗಿಯನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ, ಒಂದು ತಾವರೆಯ ಹೂ ಅರಳಿದಂತಿದೆಯಲ್ವೇ? ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿಯೇ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಪದ್ಮಾಸನ ಎಂಬಂತ ಹೆಸರು. ಜಗತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಭಯಸ್ವರೂಪಿ ಯಾವುದು? ವ್ಯಾಘ್ರ ತಾನೆ. ಆ ವ್ಯಾಘ್ರ ಚರ್ಮವನ್ನ ಬಗೆದು ಹಾಸಿ ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಕುಳಿತಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಭಯವನ್ನ ಮೆಟ್ಟಿ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಹೌದು, ಈ ಪರಮ ಪಾವನ ಮೂರ್ತಿಯ ವೈಚಿತ್ರ್ಯವನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ. ಈತ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕುಳಿತು ಬಂದು ದರ್ಶನವನ್ನ ಪಡೆದುಕೊಂಡವರಿಗೆ ಪಾವನ ಮೂರ್ತಿಯೇ ಹೊರತು ಇಡೀ ಜಗತ್ತಿಗೆ ಈತ ಪಾವನವಾದಂತಹ ಕೆಲಸವನ್ನೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಹೌದು, ಈತನನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ವಿವರಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ನೋಡಿ, ಈತನ ಕಂಠವನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ, ಈ ವಿಶ್ವರೂಪವನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ, ಈ ವಿಶ್ವರೂಪವನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ.
ಬ್ರಹ್ಮಾಂಡಗಳ ಮಾಲೆ ಸರ್ವಾಂಗವನೆ ಎತ್ತಿ ಹೆಡೆಯ ಗರ್ಭ ಸರ್ವಾಂಗವನೆ ಎತ್ತಿ ಹೆಡೆಯ ಗರ್ಭ
ವಿಶ್ವರೂಪವನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ ನೋಡಿ, ಈತನ ಕಂಠದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಆ ಮಾಲೆಯನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ. ಸೂರ್ಯಮಣಿಗಳು ಅಲ್ಲ, ಬ್ರಹ್ಮಾಂಡಗಳನ್ನೇ ತನ್ನ ಮಾಲೆಯಾಗಿ ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಕಂಠಕ್ಕೆ ಬೀಗಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಈ ನೀಲ ಸ್ವರೂಪಿ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮಾಂಡವನ್ನ ಕಂಠದಲ್ಲಿ ಧರಿಸಿದಂತಹ ನೀಲಕಂಠ ಈತನೇ ತಾನೆ. ಇದನ್ನೇ ಅಲ್ವೇ ಕೆಲವರು ಅಲ್ಪರು ಮುಂಡಮಾಲೆ ಎಂದಿದ್ದು. ಅಲ್ಲ, ಬ್ರಹ್ಮಾಂಡಗಳ ಮಾಲೆ. ಇದು ನಾನು ಬಂದು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನಲ್ವೇ? ಹೌದು. ಹೀಗೆ ಕುಳಿತಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಈತನ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಆಯುಧ ತ್ರಿಶೂಲ, ಅಂದರೆ 3 ಶೂಲ. ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ಸರ್ವ ವ್ಯಾಪಾರವನ್ನು ಸತ್ವರಜ ತಮೋ ಗುಣಗಳು ಆಳುತ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತೆ. ಅದರ ಪ್ರತೀಕವಿರಬಹುದು. ಈತನ ಸರ್ವಾಂಗವನ್ನ ಸುತ್ತಿರುವಂತಹ ಸರ್ಪ ನೋಡಿ, ಸರ್ಪವನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ. ಈತನ ನಾಡಿ ರೂಪದಂದಿದೆ. ಶಂಕರನ ತಪಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಭಂಗ ಬರದಂತೆ ತನ್ನ ಸುತ್ತಲಿನ ವಾತಾವರಣವನ್ನು ವಿಷದಿಂದ ಪೂತ್ಕರಿಸಿ ಆತನ ತಪವನ್ನು ಕಾಯ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ. ಹೌದು. ಈತನ ಭ್ರೂಮತ್ಯವನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ. ಕುಪ್ಪುಗಳು ಕೂಡುವಂತಹ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಅತ್ಯಂತಹ ತೀಕ್ಷ್ಣವಾದಂತಹ ಜ್ಯೋತಿ. ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯ ಮೂಲ ಬೀಜವೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಜ್ಯೋತಿರ್ಲಿಂಗವಾಗಿ ಪರಿಣಮಿಸಿದೆಯೋ? ಇದನ್ನೇ ಅಲ್ಲವೇ ಕೆಲವರು ಪರಶಿವನ 3ನೇ ಕಣ್ಣು ಎಂದಿದ್ದು. ಈ ಲಿಂಗ ಸ್ವರೂಪವನ್ನು ಆತನ ಭೂಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಹೌದು. ಹೀಗೆ ವೈರಾಗ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಚಿತ್ರವಾದಂತಹ ಆನಂದವನ್ನ, ಕುರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ವಿಚಿತ್ರವಾದಂತಹ ಸೌಂದರ್ಯವನ್ನು ಹೊತ್ತು ಕೂತಿದ್ದಾನಲ್ಲ. ಹೌದು, ಇದು ಈತನ ಸ್ಥಿತಿ. ಈ ಸ್ಥಿತಿಯನ್ನು ಬದಲಿಸಬೇಕು. ನೋಡಿ, ಅದು ಪೂರ್ಣ, ಇದು ಪೂರ್ಣ. ಪೂರ್ಣ ತುಂಬೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ. ಆದರೆ ಈ ಪೂರ್ಣದ ಹೂರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸಿಹಿ ಕಡಿಮೆಯಾಗಿದ್ದು ಹೌದು ತಾನೆ? ಹೌದು. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿಯೇ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಇದು ಕಬ್ಬಿನ ಬಿಲ್ಲನ್ನು ಹಿಡಿದು ಬಂದವನು ನಾನು, ಸಿಹಿಯನ್ನು ಉಣಿಸುವುದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದವನು ನಾನು, ಪುಷ್ಪಧನ್ವ ನಾನು. ನನ್ನ ಆಸೆ ಇಷ್ಟೇ, ಈ ಸ್ಥಿತಿಯನ್ನು ಬದಲಿಸಬೇಕು. ಇದು ಜಗನ್ನಾಟಕದ ಚಕ್ರಕ್ಕೆ ಒಲಿಯುವಂತಹ ಸ್ಥಿತಿಯಲ್ಲ. ಹೀಗೆ ಕುಳಿತಿರುವಂತಹ ಈತನು ಏನನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ? ಜಗತ್ತಿಗೆ ಏನನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ?
ರೂಪರಸಗಂಧ ಸೌಂದರ್ಯ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯನೆಲ್ಲ ರೂಪ ರಸಗಂಧ ಸೌಂದರ್ಯ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯನೆಲ್ಲ ರೂಪ ರಸಗಂಧ ಸೌಂದರ್ಯ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯನೆಲ್ಲ ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಹುಡಿಗೈದ ನೀತ ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಹುಡಿಗೈದ ಈತ ತಾಪಸುತ್ತಮನಾಗಿ ಕೂತು ನಿಷ್ಕ್ರಿಯನಾಗಿ ತಾಪಸುತ್ತಮನಾಗಿ ಕೂತು ನಿಷ್ಕ್ರಿಯನಾಗಿ ಮರುಗಿಸಿದ ಜೀವ ಜಾತ
ಹೀಗೆ ಕುಳಿತಿರುವಂತಹ ಈತನು ಏನನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ? ರೂಪ ರಸ ಗಂಧ ಸೌಂದರ್ಯ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ನವರಸಗಳಿಂದ ಕೂಡಿರುವಂತಹ, ಷಡ್ರಸೋಪೇತ ಭೋಜನಗಳಿಂದ ಕೂಡಿರುವಂತಹ, ದುಃಖ ದುಮ್ಮಾನ ಬಿಗುಡು ಸಂತೋಷ ಆನಂದ ಮಾತ್ಸರ್ಯ ಕ್ರೋಧ ಇತ್ಯಾದಿ ಹಾಸ್ಯಗಳೇ ಇತ್ಯಾದಿ ಭಾವಗಳಿಂದ ತುಂಬಿರುವಂತಹ ಈ ಜಗತ್ತನ್ನ ಒಂದೇ ಆಯುಧ ವೈರಾಗ್ಯ ಇದರಿಂದ ಇದು ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಹೀಗಾದರೆ ಜಗತ್ತು ನಡೆಯುವುದಾದರೂ ಹೇಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲವೇ? ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಈ ಜಗತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬಣ್ಣವನ್ನು ತುಂಬಬೇಕು. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ತಾಪಸೋತ್ತಮನಾಗಿ ನಿಷ್ಕ್ರಿಯನಾಗಿ ಕುಳಿತಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ತಪಸ್ಸಿಗೂ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯ, ಒಂದು ಉದ್ದೇಶ, ಒಂದು ಲೋಕ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣಾರ್ಥ ಅಂತ ಇರಬೇಕಲ್ವೇ? ಹೀಗೆ ಶೋಕದಿಂದ ವೈರಾಗ್ಯದಿಂದ ಘನಘೋರವಾದಂತಹ ತಪೋಮುಖನಾಗಿ ಕೂತರೆ ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ಪರಿಣಾಮವೇನು ಎಂದು ಕಂಡಿದ ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಲ್ಲವೇ? ಹೌದು, ಜಗತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಖ್ಯ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳ ಅಥವಾ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿರುತ್ತದೆಯೋ ಅವರ ತಲೆ ಮೊದಲು ಸರಿ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಾದ್ರೆ ಹೀಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತದೆ ನೋಡಿ. ಈ ಜಗತ್ತೇ ಆ ಪರಶಿವನ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನ ಪ್ರತಿಫಲನವಲ್ಲವೇ? ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಹೀಗಾಗಿದೆ. ಇದನ್ನು ಬದಲಿಸಬೇಕು. ಒಂದು ಮನೆಯಿಂದ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಹೊರಗಿಡುವುದರಿಂದ ಮನೆಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಕುಟುಂಬಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದಾಗುತ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಾದರೆ, ಒಂದು ಮನೆಯನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಊರಿನಿಂದ ಹೊರಗಿಡುವುದರಿಂದ ಊರಿಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದಾಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಾದರೆ, ಒಂದು ಊರನ್ನ ನಾಡಿನಿಂದ ಹೊರಗಿಡುವುದರಿಂದ ಇಡೀ ನಾಡಿಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದಾಗುತ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಾದರೆ, ಸಣ್ಣ ನಷ್ಟದಿಂದ ದೊಡ್ಡ ನಷ್ಟವನ್ನು ತಪ್ಪಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳಬೇಕಂತೆ. ಹೌದು, ಈತನ ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಬದಲಿಸುವ ಕಾರ್ಯ ನನ್ನ ಯುದ್ಧದಿಂದ ಮಾತ್ರ ಸಾಧ್ಯ. ಒಂದೊಮ್ಮೆ ಆ ಯುದ್ಧದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಸುಟ್ಟು ಬೂದಿಯಾದರೆ, ನನ್ನನ್ನೇ ನಾನು ಕಳೆದುಕೊಂಡರೆ ಒಪ್ಪಿಸುತ್ತೇನೆ. ಈ ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ದೇಹವೆತ್ತಿ ಬಂದಂತಹ ನಾನು ಇಷ್ಟನ್ನೂ ಮಾಡದೇ ಇದ್ರೆ ಹೇಗೆ? ಹೌದು, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ತಿರ ಆಯುಧಗಳು ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿದೆ. ಇನ್ನು ಮುಂದೆ ನೀವು ನೋಡುವಂತಹ ಯುದ್ಧ ಹಿಂದೆ ಜಗತ್ತು ಕಂಡು ಕೇಳರಿಯದಂತಹ ಯುದ್ಧ, ಅಹಿಂಸಾ ಮಾರ್ಗ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಶತ್ರುವಿನ ದೇಹನಾಶಕ್ಕೆ ಎಡೆಯಿಲ್ಲ, ಶತ್ರುವಿನ ಮನಪರಿವರ್ತನೆ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನನ್ನನ್ನೇ ನಾನು ತೆತ್ತುಕೊಂಡರೂ ಕೂಡ ಲೋಕ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣಾರ್ಥವಲ್ಲವೇ? ಆ ಮೂಲಕ ಜಯವನ್ನು ಕಾಣುತ್ತೇನೆ. ಈ ಅಹಿಂಸಾ ಯುದ್ಧಕ್ಕೆ ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಆಯುಧಗಳು ಮಧುರವಾದಂಥದ್ದು. ಅವು ಯಾವುದು ಅಂದರೆ,
ಪಂಚಭೂತದ ಪಂಚ ಬಾಣಗಳ ಬತ್ತಳಿಗೆ, ಪಂಚಭೂತದ ಪಂಚ ಬಾಣಗಳ ಬತ್ತಳಿಗೆ, ಪಂಚಭೂತದ ಪಂಚ ಬಾಣಗಳ ಬತ್ತಳಿಗೆ, ಪಂಚ ವಿಷಯಾಗ್ನಿ ಜ್ವಾಲೆ, ಪಂಚ ವಿಷಯಾಗ್ನಿ ಜ್ವಾಲೆ, ಮಿಂಚಿನ ತುರಿಯುತ್ತಿದೆ, ಮಿಂಚಿನ ತುರಿಯುತ್ತಿದೆ, ಮಿಂಚಿನ ತುರಿಯುತ್ತಿದೆ, ಹೊಂಚಿ ಹೊರ ಹಾಯುತ್ತಿದೆ, ಹೊಂಚಿ ಹೊರ ಹಾಯುತ್ತಿದೆ, ಬರಿಗೈವೆ ಇವನ ಮೇಲೆ.
ಇದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ವಿಶೇಷ ಆಯುಧಗಳು ಅರವಿಂದ, ಅಶೋಕ, ಚ್ಯೂತ, ನವಮಲ್ಲಿಕ, ನೀಲೋತ್ಪಲ ಎಂಬಂತಹ ಪಂಚ ಪುಷ್ಪಗಳು. ಈ ಪಂಚಪುಷ್ಪಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಪಂಚಭೂತಗಳನ್ನು ಆಹ್ವಾನಿಸಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಯಾವ ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಈತ ಕುಳಿತಿದ್ದಾನೋ ಆ ಪಂಚ ವಿಷಯಾಗ್ನಿಗಳನ್ನು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಂದ್ರೀಕರಿಸಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಬಹುಕಾಲದಿಂದ ಕಾಪಿಟ್ಟುಕೊಂಡಂತಹ ಈ ಆಯುಧವನ್ನು ಒಂದೊಂದಾಗಿ ಇವನ ಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರಯೋಗಿಸಬೇಕು. ಇದರಿಂದ ಹಂತ ಹಂತವಾಗಿ ಶಿವ ಬದಲಾಗುತ್ತಾನೆ, ಪ್ರಕೃತಿಯನ್ನು ಒಪ್ಪಿಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಾನೆ, ಜಗತ್ತು ಬದಲಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. ನಾನೇ ಧನ್ಯ. ತಡ ಮಾಡುವುದಲ್ಲ, ಶೀಘ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಆಯುಧಗಳನ್ನು ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡಿ ಬರುತ್ತೇನೆ.
ಸ್ಫುರದ್ಗಂಡಾ ಭೋಗ ಪ್ರತಿಫಲಿತ ತೋಟಂಕಯುಗಲಂ ಚತುಶ್ಚಕ್ರಂ ಮಲ್ಯೇ ತವ ಮುಖಮಿದಂ ಮನ್ಮಥರತಂ ಯಮಾರುಹ್ಯ ದೃಹ್ಯತ್ಯವ ನಿರಮತ ಅರ್ಕೇಂದು ಚರಣೌ ಮಹಾವೀರೋ ಮಾರಃ ಮಹಾವೀರೋ ಮಾರಃ ಪ್ರಮಥಪತಯೇ ಸಜ್ಜಿತವತೆ
ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಅಸ್ತ್ರಗಳು ಸಿದ್ಧಗೊಂಡಿದೆ. ಮೊದಲನೆಯದಾಗಿ ತಾವರೆಯ ಹೂವಿನ ಅಸ್ತ್ರ, ಅರವಿಂದಾಸ್ತ್ರ, ಅದನ್ನು ಪ್ರಯೋಗಿಸುತ್ತೇನಂತೆ.
ಅರವಿಂದಾಸ್ತ್ರ
ತತ್ವದಿಂದ ಆವರಿಸಿದಂತಹ ಅರವಿಂದಾಸ್ತ್ರವನ್ನು ಎಸೆದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಇದರಿಂದ ಶತ್ರುವಿಗೆ ತನ್ನ ದೇಶ ಕಾಲದ ಅರಿವಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಹೌದು, ಆತ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದುಕೊಂಡಂತಹ ಭಾವನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಒಂದೊಂದಾಗಿ ಹೊರಹಾಕುತ್ತಾನೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ನಾಟಕಕ್ಕೆ ರಂಗಸಜ್ಜಿಕೆ ಏನೋ ಸಿದ್ಧವಾಯಿತು. ನೋಡೋಣ ಈತನ ಮುಖದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಭಾವನೆ ಯಾವುದು?
ಮುಖ ಅರಳಿತು ಪರಮ ಪವಿತ್ರ ತತ್ತದಿ ಧೀಂ ತತ್ತದಿ ಧೀಂ ತತ್ತದಿ ಧೀಂ
ನೋಡಿ, ಮುಖ ಅರಳಿ ಒಳಗಿರುವ ಸಂಜ್ಞೆಗಳು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಈತನನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದರೆ ಶೋಕ ತಪ್ತನಾಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಹೌದು, ಅರಳಿದ ಮುಖದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಡಂತಹ ಭಾವ ಶೋಕ. ಒಮ್ಮೆಲೆ ಬೆಳಕಾಯಿತು ನೋಡಿ. ಜಗತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಬಾಣಕ್ಕೂ ಈತನ ಮೇಲಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇಡೀ ಜಗತ್ತಿಗೆ ಪರಿಣಾಮವಾಗುತ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ವಿಶೇಷವಲ್ಲವೇ? ತಡ ಮಾಡದೆ ಈತನ ಮುಖದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಶೋಕ ಕಳೆಯನ್ನು ತೆಗೆಯಬೇಕು. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಜಲಶಕ್ತಿಯಿಂದ ಆವೃತವಾದಂತಹ ಅಶೋಕಾಸ್ತ್ರ ಅದನ್ನು ಪ್ರಯೋಗಿಸುತ್ತೇನಂತೆ. ಮುಖದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಶೋಕದ ಕಳೆ ಏನೋ ಹೋಯಿತು. ಈತನ ಶರೀರವನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ, ಬಹುಕಾಲದ ತಪಸ್ಸಿನಿಂದ ಕೃಶವಾಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಶರೀರ, ತನ್ನ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ಭೂಮಂಡಲಕ್ಕೆ ಶಿರಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಎಳೆದುಕೊಂಡು ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಮನಸ್ಸಿದ್ರು ದೇಹದಲ್ಲಿ ತ್ರಾಣ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಪ್ರಯೋಜನ ಅಲ್ವೇ? ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ವಿಷಯ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ. ಶರೀರದಲ್ಲಿ ಶಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ತುಂಬಬೇಕು. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಮೂರನೆಯ ಅಸ್ತ್ರ ಚೂತಾಸ್ತ್ರ, ಮಾವಿನ ಹೂವಿನಿಂದ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತಹದ್ದು. ಇದು ತೇಜೋಶಕ್ತಿಯಿಂದ ಆವೃತವಾಗಿರುವಂತಹದ್ದು. ಇದನ್ನು ಪ್ರಯೋಗಿಸಿ ನೋಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಇದು ಚೂತ. ಹೌದು, ಚೂತಾಸ್ತ್ರವನ್ನು ಎಸೆದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಇದು ಪರಿಣಾಮವಾಗಿ ಶಿವನಲ್ಲಿ ರಸ ಉದಿಸಿದೆ. ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯದ ಮಾತಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮ ನಾಟಕದ ರಸೋತ್ಪತ್ತಿ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಆಯ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ನಾಟಕವೇ ಮುಗಿದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹೌದು, ಇದು ಅಸ್ತ್ರದ ಪರಿಣಾಮ. ಶಿವನಲ್ಲಿ ರಸ ಉದಿಸಿದೆ, ಮಾಂಸಖಂಡಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಶಕ್ತಿ ತುಂಬಿದೆ, ದೇಹದಲ್ಲಿ ಎದ್ದು ನಿಲ್ಲಲು ಯಾವುದೇ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಯೇ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಆದರೆ ರಸೋತ್ಪತ್ತಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಿಲ್ಲಬಾರ್ದಲ್ಲ. ರಸೋತ್ಪತ್ತಿಯ ಪರಿಣಾಮ ಜಗತ್ತಿಗೆ ಹಂಚಲ್ಪಡಬೇಕಲ್ವೇ? ಆ ರಸದ ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಹರಿದು ಬಂದು ಆನಂದವನ್ನು ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಸಬೇಕು. ಹೌದು, ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಈತನ ಮನಸ್ಸು ಇನ್ನೂ ಚಂಚಲವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಹೀಗಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಚಂಚಲವಾಗಬೇಕು, ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲೆಗಳು ಏಳಬೇಕು. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನಾಲ್ಕನೆಯ ಅಸ್ತ್ರ ವಾಯುಶಕ್ತಿಯಿಂದ ಆವೃತವಾದಂತಹ ನವಮಲ್ಲಿಕ ಅಸ್ತ್ರ. ಕಂಪನ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಕೆಲವೊಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ ಇದನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ ಅನುಕಂಪವೂ ಆಗಬಹುದು. ಆದರೆ ಸಂತೋಷದ ಕಂಪನ ಇದು, ಜಗತ್ತಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾದಂತಹ ಕಂಪನ ಇದು. ಹೌದು, ಈತನ ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳು ಅದುರುತ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಮನಸ್ಸು ಚಂಚಲವಾಗಿದೆ. ಪ್ರಕೃತಿ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದಾಳೆ. ಪುರುಷ ಅದನ್ನು ಕಾಣಬೇಕು, ಅಪ್ಪಿ ಮುದ್ದಾಡಬೇಕು. ಈ ಶಿವಶಕ್ತಿಯರ ಮಿಲನವಾಗಬೇಕು. ಇದರಿಂದಲೇ ಲೋಕೋದ್ಧಾರವಾಗುವುದು. ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನೇನೋ ಚಂಚಲಗೊಳಿಸಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಕಣ್ಣು ಬಿಡಬೇಕಲ್ಲ, ಎದ್ದು ನಿಲ್ಲಬೇಕಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಕೊನೆಯ ಅಸ್ತ್ರ ವಾಯು, ಜಲ, ಅಪ್, ತೇಜ, ನಂತರದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುವಂತಹ ಆಕಾಶ ಶಕ್ತಿಯಿಂದ ಕೂಡಿರುವಂತಹ ನೀಲೋತ್ಪಲ. ನೀಲೋತ್ಪಲ ಇದನ್ನು ಪ್ರಯೋಗಿಸುತ್ತೇನೆ, ನೋಡೋಣ.
ನೀಲೋತ್ಪಲ
ಇದೇನಿದು? ಕಣ್ಣನ್ನು ಬಿಡುವುದ ಹೊರತಾಗಿ ತನ್ನ ಭೂಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಮೂರನೇ ಕಣ್ಣನ್ನು ಬಿಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನಲ್ಲ. ಉರಿ 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 ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಹೌದು, ಪರಶಿವ ಮೂರನೇ ಕಣ್ಣನ್ನು ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಇನ್ನು ನಾನು ಉಳಿಯಲಾರೆ, ಅದೃಶ್ಯನಾಗಿರ್ತೇನೆ. ನನ್ನ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣ ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ನಾಟಕದ ಸೂತ್ರವನ್ನ ಈತನ ಕೈಲಿ ಕೊಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಹಾ, ಶಿವ ಕಣ್ಣು ಬಿಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ.
ಉರಿಯಾಯಿದು ಹರನೇತ್ರ, ಉರಿಯಾಯಿದು ಹರನೇತ್ರ, ಉರಿಯಾಯಿದು 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 ಹರನೇತ್ರ. ಅದೃಶ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾರನು ಸಂದ, ಆ ದೃಶ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಹರನೈ ತಂದ, ಆತ್ಮಾರ್ಪಣದಿಮ್ಮಾರ ತಾನಾದನು ಜಗದಾಧಾರ. ಕಾಲ ಕಾಲಕ್ಕೂ ಸುರಿದು ಮಳೆಯಾಗಲಿ, ಕಾಲ ಕಾಲಕ್ಕೂ ಸುರಿದು ಮಳೆಯಾಗಲಿ, ಹಸಿರುಡುಗೆಯಿಟ್ಟು ಈ ಧರೆ ನಲಿಯಲಿ, ಹಸಿರುಡುಗೆಯುಟ್ಟು ಈ ಧರೆ ನಲಿಯಲಿ, ದೇಶದಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಕ್ಷೋಭೆ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರಲಿ, ದೇಶದಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಕ್ಷೋಭೆ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರಲಿ, ಜನ ಬದುಕಲೆಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೋ ನಿರ್ಭಯದಲ್ಲಿ, ಜನ ಬದುಕಲೆಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೋ ನಿರ್ಭಯದಲ್ಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕಷ್ಟ ಕೋಟಲೆ ದಾಟಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕಷ್ಟ ಕೋಟಲೆ ದಾಟಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಮಂಗಳವನೇ ಕಾಣಲಿ, ಪರಮಾತ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸದ್ಬುದ್ಧಿ ಕರುಣಿಸಲಿ, ಪರಮಾತ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸದ್ಬುದ್ಧಿ ಕರುಣಿಸಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲರಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೂ ನಿಲಲಾನಂದದಲ್ಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲರಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೂ ನಿಲಲಾನಂದದಲ್ಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲರಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೂ ನಿಲಲಾನಂದದಲ್ಲಿ. ಎಲ್ಲರೆಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೂ ನಿಲಲಾನಂದದಲ್ಲಿ, ಗಜವರವದನ ಸುಶೋಭಿತಗೆ ಭುಜಗಭೂಷಣ ಲಂಬೋದರಗೆ ಸುಜನಾಧಾರಗೆ ತ್ರಿಜಗತ್ತು ಪೂಜೆಗೆ, ಸುಜನಾಧಾರಗೆ ತ್ರಿಜಗತ್ತು ಪೂಜೆಗೆ, ಭಜಕ ಮನೋರಥ
ಶ್ರೀ ಇಡಗುಂಜಿ ಮಹಾಗಣಪತಿ ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನ ಮಂಡಳಿ ಕೆರೆಮನೆ ಇದರ ಭಾಗವಾಗಿ ಇಂದು ಮಾರಾವತಾರವನ್ನು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ಪ್ರದರ್ಶಿಸಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಭಾಗವತರಾಗಿ ಬಂದಂಥವರು ಬಿಸ್ಮಿಲ್ಲಾ ಖಾನ್ ಅವಾರ್ಡಿ ಆದಂತಹ ಅನಂತ್ ಹೆಗಡೆ ದಂತಳಿಕೆಯವರು, ಮದ್ದಳೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮೂರು ನರಸಿಂಹ ಹೆಗಡೆಯವರು, ಚಂಡೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಶ್ರೀರಾಮನ್ ಹೆಗಡೆಯವರು, ಮತ್ತು ನಾನು ಕೆರೆಮನೆ ಶ್ರೀಧರ. ಈ ಯಕ್ಷನಾಟಕವನ್ನು ನಿರ್ದೇಶಿಸಿದವರು ನನ್ನ ಗುರು ಮತ್ತು ಅಜ್ಜ ಕೆರೆಮನೆ ಶಂಭು ಹೆಗಡೆಯವರು. ಇದು ಅವರ ಕೊನೆಯ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದಂತಹ ಕೃತಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಜನ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೆತನವನ್ನು, ಕಲೆಯನ್ನು ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಗುರು ಬಂಧುಗಳಾಗಿದ್ದೀರಿ. ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಮಾಯಾರಾವ್ ಅವರ ಶಿಷ್ಯ ನಾನು, ಅಪ್ಪ, ಅಜ್ಜ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಹೌದು. ನೀವು ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ. ಒಂದು ಭಾವುಕದ ಕ್ಷಣವೇ ಹೌದು ಇದು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಪುನರ್ಮಿಲನ ಅಂತಲೇ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು. ಹೌದು, ಇಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಮೇಳದ 91ನೇ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಇಂದು ವಿಶ್ವಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನವನ್ನು ಕಾಪಿಟ್ಟು ಪರಂಪರೆಯ ಶುದ್ಧತೆಯನ್ನು ಉಳಿಸಿ ಬೆಳೆಸುವಂತಹ ಇಡಗುಂಜಿ ಮೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಯುನೆಸ್ಕೋ ಮಾನ್ಯತೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ನಾನು ಕೂಡ ಮೊದಲು ವಿಜ್ಞಾನದ ಹಾದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ನಂತರ ಮತ್ತೆ ಗೂಡಿಗೆ ಸೇರಲಿ ಮರಳಿ ಮಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ಎಂಬಂತಹ ಮಾತಿಗೆ ಪೂರಕವಾಗಿ ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನವನ್ನು ಆದಷ್ಟು ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ತಂದೆ ಶಿವಾನಂದ ಹೆಗಡೆಯವರು, ಅಜ್ಜ ಮತ್ತು ಗುರು ಹಿರಿಯರ ಆಶೀರ್ವಾದದಿಂದ ಇದು ಸಾಧ್ಯವೇ ಹೊರತು, ಮತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮಂತಹ ಪ್ರೇಕ್ಷಕರು ನಮ್ಮಂಥವರನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ ಪ್ರೋತ್ಸಾಹಿಸುವುದರಿಂದ ಇದು ಸಾಧ್ಯವೇ ಹೊರತು ಮತ್ಯಾವ ಕಾರಣದಿಂದಲೂ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಡೈಲಾಗ್ಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ಬರೆದು ಬಾಯ್ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾವುದೇ ಕುಣಿತವನ್ನು ನಾವು ಇಷ್ಟಿಷ್ಟು ಆವರ್ತನಗಳು ಅಂಥೇಳಿ ರಿಹರ್ಸಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡುವುದಲ್ಲ. ಇವತ್ತು ನೀವು ನೋಡಿದ ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಕ್ಷಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯಾದಂತಹ ನಾಟಕ. ಈ ಮೂಲಕವಾಗಿ ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನ ಹಳೆಯ ಕಥೆಗಳನ್ನು, ರಾಮಾಯಣ, ಮಹಾಭಾರತ, ಪುರಾಣಗಳ ಕಥೆಯನ್ನು ಪುನರ್ನವೀಕರಣ ದಿನದಿನವೂ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿಯೇ ಜನ ಬಂದು ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನವನ್ನು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಆ ನಾಟಕಗಳೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ, ಆ ಕಥೆಗಳೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಸಂಭಾಷಣೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂಥವರು ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನ ಕಲಾವಿದರು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಲೈಟ್ಸ್ ಅವ್ರು ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ, ಎಷ್ಟು ನಿಮಿಷಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವ ಲೈಟ್ ಹಾಕಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಇದು ನನಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯಾಗುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಕಲೆ ಇದು. ಗುರು ಹಿರಿಯರ ಆಶೀರ್ವಾದದಿಂದ ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ನಿಮಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನತಮಸ್ತಕನಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಣಾಮವನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ನಿತ್ಯ ನಿತ್ಯ ಫೆಸ್ಟಿವಲಿನ ಟೀಮ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ, ಮತ್ತು ಇವತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಶರ್ವಾಣಿ ಮತ್ತು ಆಕೆ ಶಿಷ್ಯ ಕೂಡ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ತೆರೆಯನ್ನು ಮೊದಲು ಹಿಡಿದರು. ಮತ್ತು ಮಾತೋಶ್ರೀಯವರು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಮಾಮ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ, ತುಂಬ ಸಂತೋಷ ಮತ್ತು ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ಕೆರೆಮನೆಗೆ ಬನ್ನಿ, ನಮ್ಮೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನ ಶಿಬಿರವನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನವನ್ನು ಕಲಿಯಿರಿ, ಫೆಸ್ಟಿವಲನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ಬಂದು ನೋಡಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಟ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರ್ ಇದೆ. ಇಷ್ಟು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ನನ್ನ ಮಾತನ್ನು ಮುಗಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
I would like to request Guru Srimati Matkolkar, Senior Disciple of Nupura, Director of Bhavan's Kalash Region Nagpur, to present a heartfelt token of gratitude from Nupura to Shri Keremane Shridhara Hegde and the musicians who have ably supported him today. Shri Ananta Hegde Dantalige on the vocals. Shri Narasimha Hegde Murur on Mandali. Shri Raman Hegde on Chande. Shravani Hegde and Chandana on Chauki and Tere. and Shri Keremane Shridhara Hegde, our performer.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a truly scintillating experience over these past 3 days, filled with creative insights, meaningful discussions, and captivating performances that beautifully connected various art forms and dance traditions. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to our sponsors, donors, and well-wishers for their invaluable support that has made this year's Nitya Nritya festival possible. We have been honored to host distinguished scholars, gurus, dancers, and artists who have so generously shared their knowledge and artistry with us. Our sincere thanks to each one of them. A special word of gratitude to Shri H.N. Suresh, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, and Bhavan staff for providing this beautiful venue and for their constant support and assistance. I would like to call upon Shri Chandru and Shri Praveen to accept a token of our gratitude on behalf of Nopura. Shri Chandru and Shri Praveen, please. Shri Chandru and Shri Praveen. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for all their support over the last few days. Shri Surendra for the lighting. Shri Srivatsa for the photography. Thank you, sir. Shri Pradeep for the videography. Shri Pradeep. Yes, please. Thank you, sir, for all your support. I would also like to express my deepest appreciation to the Nitya Nritya Organizing Committee and the members for their tireless efforts and dedication in making this festival a grand success. And finally, to all of you, our wonderful audience, thank you for your warmth, your enthusiasm, and encouragement throughout these 3 days. We wish you all a very good night. Thank you.